to the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence to not only remember our troops serving our country overseas, but all lost to COVID-19 and their families. Civil rights leader John Lewis and his family, and we will also like prayers for our Councilwoman Debbie Meehan and her family as she lost her dad this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat.
Notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law have been satisfied concerning this meeting. The Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger published the original notice on December 20th, 2019, and an annual notice was amended and published in the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on June 5th, 2020. A copy of the schedule was posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. It should be so noted in the minutes of this meeting. Councilman Spiller.
Here.
Councilman Ficarra.
Here.
Councilwoman Meehan. Councilwoman Drum.
Here.
Councilman Patel. Councilman Anderson.
Here.
Councilman Bauer. Council Vice President Small.
Here.
And President De Jesus.
Here. I would like to make an announcement concerning videotaping during our public session. Please note that Municipal Ordinance 2-4.9 outlines the guidelines for videotaping and/or photographing municipal council meetings. Anyone endeavoring to video or record via any device any or all segments of tonight's meeting is required to move to the video area in the rear of the council chambers. We will now go to the public session of tonight's meetings. I would ask any resident wishing to speak to go to the microphone. Please provide your name and the section of the township in which you reside. The public session allows for 5 minutes. The 5-minute time frame includes remarks by the speaker and any response or interaction by the council or administration, and there will be no extensions or allotment for additional time.
Madam President, may I deliver my agenda first?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go through the ordinances and resolutions first. I also would like to get a motion to approve the minutes from the July 6th meeting.
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Beginning with your ordinances listed this evening, second reading, I'm going to take letters A and B first. Both are amendments to Chapter 7, which are entitled Traffic. The first is for handicap parking to add a space on Ridgedale Avenue. One is to delete a space on Demarest Avenue. And letter B is to add 2 spaces on a private property, which is Powderhorn Court. With that said, for A and B, can I get a motion that these ordinances be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letters A and B only. A and B. Here are no comments from the public. Can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinances be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we're going to take letters C, D, and E, also by consent. These are ordinances approving redevelopment areas. The first is for Woodbridge Area 5. The second is for 51 New Brunswick Avenue. And the third is the amended plan for Cutter's Dock Road. With that said, can I get a motion that these ordinances be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letters C, D, and E. C, D, and E only. Here are no comment from the public. Can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed and these ordinances be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Letter F is an ordinance approving a licensing agreement between the Township of Woodbridge and Station Village at Urban Renewal LLC and approving a sublease agreement between the Township of Woodbridge and the Woodbridge Arts Alliance. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter F only. Here are no comment from the public. Can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We will take letters G, H, I, J, and K, which are all first reading ordinances. We'll take them by consent as well on an introduction on first reading to be published in the Home News Tribune on July 24th, 2020, with notice of public hearing to be held on August 4th, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Listed before you are resolutions 1 through 17. Can I get a motion to approve 1 through 17?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? Mr. Ficarra?
Council President, can I abstain, please, on item number 11, because it's with the Housing Authority, and I voted on the other side.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Madam President.
At this time, I would like to, before we open the public session, I would like to call on Vice President Brian Small.
Thank you, Madam President. Several weeks ago, I made a statement to our police officers about ignoring comments from the public. Since then, several individuals have taken that statement out of context, which I would like to address here and now. Let's be clear. As a retired police officer and a supporter of our police department, my comments that evening were made to express support and encouragement during these challenging times. The men and women of our department and the vast majority of police officers around the globe perform a necessary and valuable service to their communities, a service that we cannot do without and without less funding. Despite some individuals continuing to question the professionalism of our department, I encourage each and every officer to keep their chin up, continue performing the job they took the oath of office to do according to their best of their ability. As an elected councilman, I will always respect the opinions and rights of the public and will support their right to speak. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Now we will go to the public portion of the meeting. Please approach the microphone if you would like to speak, state the area of the township you live in, and again, there's a one-time, 5-minute time period.
I would also ask Council President, when the speakers are done, we do have a line of people that are waiting to come in. When the speakers are done, if they would consider leaving the room to allow to open the seat up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Dabrowski. I'm a lifelong resident of Woodbridge Township. This past Friday, July 17th, I drove over to Carvel and Colonia to get ice cream for my family, who thankfully waited at home. Upon pulling up in the parking lot, I immediately noticed a motorcycle with the flag on the back that read, "Americans for Trump, America First." Now, being an educator who's committed to anti-racism, I was already alarmed as the slogan "America First" was popularized and is still commonly used by the KKK. When I exited my vehicle, I then noticed a woman sitting down at a table outside wearing a white supremacist Confederate flag hat, and my already slack jaw just completely dropped. I had just been on a Zoom call Thursday night for our Woodbridge Board of Education meeting where I asked the board and central administration to please be upstanders and not bystanders and help us as we try to also get the council and mayor on the right side of history and begin to enact anti-racism policies as the board had just done with its newly formed Equity Commission. Was I going to be a hypocrite and walk right past this woman wearing this hateful symbol of white supremacy, flown by traitors who seceded from the United States to fight against us to keep black people enslaved? No. I pulled out my phone and began recording myself standing up to bigotry, not cowardly standing by and condoning it. Both she and the man she was with were not happy at all about being held accountable and did not seem to appreciate the free history lesson I attempted to give them, even giving me the middle finger along with the 2 words that gesture symbolizes. Another white woman then came out from inside Carvel to scoldingly order me to leave them alone. When I pointed out the white supremacist hat, both she and her friend inside angrily told me that the woman is entitled to her opinion and proceeded to call me a blank hole. Now, inside Carvel, I kept my camera rolling, and the woman told her friend she should call the police, and then also told the employee serving ice cream that she should call the police. I told the employee that she should tell the woman wearing a hateful symbol of racial terror outside her business that she should leave. The employee did neither and continued serving ice cream, so the 2 women outrageously called the police on me. The one woman even shockingly asked me, "What are you, from Buns Lane?" as if that should be something to be ashamed of. She then took a photo of my license plate and said that she works for the Woodbridge Housing Authority. The woman wearing the racist hat also disgustingly said to me, "Your black kid's ice cream is melting." When Officer David Ricardo arrived and was made aware of the situation, his exact words were, "What's wrong with the hat? I don't see any hate speech there." The group of now 4 defenders of the white supremacist flag were quick to exclaim to him how they backed the blue, with the woman in her hateful hat even shouting that her son-in-law is a Woodbridge cop. Officer Kevin Smith soon arrived with Sergeant Richard Yannick, who pulled me to the side to talk and explained that it's her freedom of speech to wear the hat. I explained that it's my freedom of speech to confront hate speech and that it's our responsibility to do so. I asked Sergeant Yannick his personal views about the hateful flag, and while he told me that when in uniform he's not allowed to comment on or display his beliefs in public, I noticed he was nonetheless wearing a bracelet with the very controversial and divisive thin blue line flag on it, a symbol widely known to represent the anti-black, racist Blue Lives Matter counter-movement. Such hypocrisy is sadly not surprising from our police department, as in our latest July edition of our local newspaper, The Corner, Woodbridge Police Director Robert Hubner chose to write exclusively about the offensive blue line painted down Main Street. Director Hubner conveniently left out many facts about the blue line and the notoriously racist 1950s Los Angeles police chief who popularized it, and then went on to falsely claim that the blue line has not and is not a divisive symbol, when it clearly and unquestionably is. Flemington, New Jersey's Mayor Betsy Driver had the courage to admit that their town's blue line was painted down its Main Street in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and she stood up and had it removed before Flemington's first Black Lives Matter march on June 6th, saying, "It's time we put that shameful dividing line behind us." Regardless of our perspectives about it, it is indeed divisive and should be immediately removed in the spirit of creating a more inclusive and equitable community. But even more important than symbolic policy change, we need systemic policy change. Throughout American history, there has always been anti-black backlash to racial justice movements, and right now is sadly no different. Inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, which has now dwarfed even the civil rights movement, the Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity are an amazing, brilliant, courageous, and inspiring group of young community leaders. We should all be thankful for their tireless work they've been doing to help Woodbridge finally make concrete commitments to anti-racism and help us get on the right side of history. In the words of the late legendary civil rights icon, Representative John Lewis, it was very moving to see hundreds of thousands of people from all over America and around the world take to the streets to speak up, to speak out, and to get into what I call good trouble. This feels and looks so different. It is so much more massive and all-inclusive, and this time there will be no turning back. I hope the council and mayor will honor Representative Lewis's memory and stand with this racial justice movement, not against it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Hello, my name is Charity. I live in Seawarren. I just found it really funny that y'all opened up with John Lewis and commemorating his life while y'all are on the wrong side of history and civil rights and not listening to us. But you know, that's just how y'all be. So just saying, while Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity has made our demands clear from the beginning. Attending these council meetings has taught me a lot about what this township stands for, and it is white supremacy. After releasing our demands on Instagram, we received so much hate from people saying Blue Lives Matter, claims that the police don't harm anyone in Woodbridge when in fact we had an issue literally less than 2 months ago, amongst other harmful comments such as running protesters over, you know, things that non-racist people would do, but obviously they were racist things. Not only did we receive the harmful and violent comments from Instagram, but with this, our group has been open to threats and hates on Facebook by grown adults who said that they were going to run us over, harm us, and told us to stop talking and shut up. They are going to run us over for demanding liberation, dignity, respect, for us to be anti-racist, wild. But to me, this says a lot about the council, the township, and the mayor. They lack a conscience. You all lack a conscience. Toni Morrison talks about how racism takes a toll not only on Black people, but white people as well. Anthony James Williams writes about how white people and those that want to be like white people lose their conscience in order to be able to dehumanize and erase Black and brown people, just like the people in those pictures behind you all. They have their power at the expense of others. They have their power by not listening to others. They lack a conscience. You lack a conscience. They don't care that their policies are harming Black and brown people because they have chosen not to care. They have chosen not to listen, even when the facts are right in front of them, even when the news is telling them that Black and brown people are dying at the hands of the police, even when your residents are complaining about being fearful of their life, even when your Black council member has even talked about fearing for his life. You refuse to listen. It's a choice, a conscious one at that. Your refusal to answer emails is a choice. Your refusal to come up with any tangible plans is a choice. It's loud and clear. But why don't others listen? It's because they also lack a conscience. I don't expect everyone to be on the same page as WILE, or me or any other members of WILE, in one day, because it took me a while to get to this point. However, I do expect your undivided attention and your engagement, which is something people in this town have not given, and don't do unless you're talking about white people. Racism, but more importantly, anti-blackness, has always been alive in Woodbridge. Stop acting like it doesn't exist. It was alive in 1669 when the township was created and continued to enslave black people. It was alive when slavery was so-called abolished, even though we all know the 13th Amendment was created to allow the imprisonment of black and brown people, just like plantations were. It is alive when we even have a few black representatives, such as Councilman Anderson, or in the Board of Ed, or even just administrators and school teachers. Woodbridge Township pretends like racism is not an issue, but it is the issue. You can literally see it with the portraits of slave owners right behind you. We can see this on October 29th in 2019 when Mr. Anderson, our only black councilman, was attacked by the Woodbridge PBA president, who disregarded his experiences as a black man in America. We can see it in the disregard and dehumanization of a black woman who is speaking up about not feeling safe and wanting diversity within the office and within police officers, and yet y'all continue to not listen and have police officers interrupt her. Yet you want me to believe these people are protecting us when they can't even keep their mouth shut? Wild. In addition, members of WILE have been mocked at council meetings. Council members and even the mayor discounted our experiences, laughed, and even told police officers, don't listen to the public. And even with the comment today, it remains the same. In doing so, they remind us what they care about. Their power, their whiteness, their money. They don't care about black people, because if they really did, they would engage with our demands instead of recycling the same statements that the mayor has used for months. You would respond with us with true statements beyond working on it. You are all cowards, and I mean that with my whole chest. Because real people who have a conscience would do the bare minimum of emailing us back with actual plans. You are ruthless, racist, anti-black, and have no regard for people who don't look like you. With that, I hope this clears up how I feel and what many others feel in this township. Overall, WILE is strong. We are here, we are rising, and if y'all don't want to act accordingly, I promise you, it won't be easy. And luckily, I have a conscience, because a lot of people in this room don't. But at least my conscience tells me black liberation matters. It tells me free Palestine. It tells me trans lives matter. It tells me colonialism must end. It tells me indigenous people must get their land back. It tells me say her name.
Time over. Thank you.
Y'all are real mad up in here, but at the end of the day, listen to us. Bye.
Thank you. Your time is over. Your backpack.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mia Banks. I'm a resident of Avenel, a rising senior at Boston University studying political science and statistics, and I'm also a member of the Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity. I want to be very direct and express to you all that I'm speaking today from a place of frustration and disappointment. I'm frustrated by and disappointed in the actions and lack thereof by the elected officials of this township, which I've lived in my entire life. I'm speaking about Mayor McCormick and the council sitting before you today. About 2 weeks ago on July 9th, I had a conversation over the phone with Councilman Spiller in which we discussed the council and the mayor's response to WILE's demands for policing reform. I expressed to the councilman my concern with the lack of response to our demands by the elected officials and the council and the mayor's reluctance in engaging with WILE to discuss the feasibility or even issues with enacting and implementing each individual demand. Councilman Spiller told me that the mayor had actually considered our demands and released a public statement about them. Councilman Spiller then proceeded to send me an article from the mayor that was published in the Colonia Corner, same one Charity just referenced, newspaper about how the Woodbridge Township is quote-unquote the best town around because it manages to maintain the Woodbridge Police Department as the single highest expenditure in our annual budget while also funding programs that are meant to assist the most vulnerable in the Woodbridge Township. This statement from the mayor did not mention a single one of WILE's demands. The very next day, I replied to Councilman Spiller's email and I CC'd all of the other councilors and the mayor. In the email, I explained just exactly how Woodbridge is not managing both, contrary to popular belief. And I used readily available statistics released by the U.S. Department of Education, NewJersey.com's Police Force Report, and the State of New Jersey School Performance Report to make my case. I received no response from any of our elected officials in this room today. In the Woodbridge Township, black students make up only 11.3% of Woodbridge Township School District enrollment, but 27.8% of out-of-school suspensions. A black person in the Woodbridge Township is 70% more likely to have force used against them by a police officer. In the recent past, black, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged students have not met the No Child Left Behind progress targets in the extremely important subject of math, while within the same years, white and Asian students have. If Woodbridge Town is doing everything it possibly can to ensure that it's serving all residents equitably, these disproportionate racial disparities would not exist. The programs meant to help that assist now may work to an extent, but my question for the council, the mayor, and my fellow residents is how well could these programs actually work to ensure true equity in our town if they were just invested in more? I joined the Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity, and I'm pushing our demands because I want to find out. For the council and the mayor to blatantly ignore my email tells me that they have no interest in responding to, hearing out, and engaging with their taxpaying constituents. We fund the salaries of these people who refuse to do their jobs and truly lead this town. I understand that the council is probably working tirelessly to mitigate the negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic that the pandemic has had on this town, but it's extremely important to remember that Black and brown people across this country suffered at a higher rate during the duration of this pandemic than anyone else due to this country's history of systemic racism. Our town, in, for example, the way it's geographically segregated by race to an extent, is a direct outcome of America's history of systemic racism. We have all of these wealthy white and Asian families living in huge homes and estates in towns like Colonia, for example, contrasted with the low-income, predominantly Black and Hispanic families living in multi-family housing units like the Queen's Gardens on the outskirts of Colonia. I'm speaking in terms of proportions, which borders the less wealthy town of Avenel. Housing policies in the U.S., like Holt's redlining maps of the 1930s, racial disparities in who received the benefits of the GI Bill, private housing market discrimination, implicit biases in hiring practices were and are systems that have shaped the Woodbridge Township, and it is extremely naive and ignorant to believe that they don't and that they haven't. With our desire to cut the police budget by 15% and reallocate that money to other services, we do not wish to put police officers out of work so that they can't provide for their families. Instead, we're asking the mayor, the council, and our fellow residents of the Woodbridge Township to imagine a different reality. The job of a police officer can be transformed, and police officers can learn new skills so that they can work to proactively prevent crises rather than simply react to and curate them. Black and brown people in the Woodbridge Township shouldn't have to worry about negative interactions with the police at the same time that they may be worrying about paying bills. This is a human rights issue. This is about combating systemic racism and righting wrongs. Woodbridge can do better, and I believe that if it can, it is obligated to. I will not stop, and I will not let up until I see promising change, reform, and progress. I support the new request from Weil for the council to hold a town hall on policing policies and reform before the 2021 fiscal year budget vote in August. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public?
My name is Mary Nasser. I live in Port Reading. I've lived in Port Reading my whole entire life. I just want to say, if you think Woodbridge doesn't have a racism problem, take a look outside the window right now and you'll see that Woodbridge has a racism problem. We have counter-protesters protesting what we're saying right now. They're protesting for Blue Lives Matter, but a life isn't blue. A life can be black, white, brown, or whatever, but it cannot be blue. It's a uniform. They get to take off their uniform when they go home. We don't get to take off our skin color. And I want you guys to understand that this is a fear that we all live with in this township with the police officers here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public this evening?
Hello, I'm Lisa Easton. I live in Woodbridge. I wanted to come here and talk today about the Black Lives Matter movement. It's pervasive that we continue to get pushback saying that all lives matter, and all lives do matter. But the point of the Black Lives Matter is to include us in that. For so many years, we have been excluded. We have been victimized by racism and our system makeups, and it's time for us to make a change. In terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, our greater concern is the well-being of Black lives and people of color.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You can't film there. We made a comment in the beginning of our council meeting. Okay, you have to go to the blue and film from there.
That's not going to interrupt my time, right?
No, we stopped it.
Okay, so the Black Lives Movement, the overall concern is to look out for the well-being of our Black people and people of color in this community and throughout the whole country. We're not looking to take over. We're not looking to abolish the police, the policing. We're looking to allocate some of our tax funds to other services in the community that would build us up and strengthen us as a community and as a whole. Some of the things, the greater investments would be the schools, would be our education, would be resources, our health care, recreation. There's the community center, for instance, my son, okay, there was a point where I was going through a difficult time at home and I couldn't afford for him to go to the community center. And he would sneak anyway, and then I would get a call to come pick him up. Eventually now, I'm able to pay for him to have membership, but what about all those other children whose parents can't? If we want to get the delinquency out of the behaviors of children that we're seeing in the community, we have to substitute it for other things and to create recreational activities for them to get involved in. Most of the kids, they need that. They need the social engagement of their peers and working with sports and getting involved in community activities so that they can stay off the streets. So again, we're looking to ease your fear and frustration. We're not looking to abolish the police station. We want to strengthen our communities, and strengthening our communities mean defunding the policing. We can't be oblivious to the matters at hand. We can't sit here and pretend that it's not happening. Racial profiling is evident. The violence proportionally against people of color is evident, and we need to work together as a community, not to be divided, but as a community to come up with solutions, and that's why we're here. Thank you. I hope that you really take heed to these people speaking, and I know some of it come off as frustration because we're hurt and we're tired. For instance, my son, he's an honor roll student. The other day, he was riding his bike home, and someone alongside of him, a car stopped and called him a nigger and sped off. And the sad thing about it, they weren't children, they were adults. And my son rode his bike like hell to get home. We have to do something. And I just hope that you take this into consideration and hear from the hearts of the people, whether it's in an angry way or what have you. But please just hear us out and try to do your best to help us to allocate funds to strengthen our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make a quick point, and it's the fact that we are listening and we do hear you. We do. And you mentioned activities for the youth. And I don't know if I should say it now, but we are working towards having an additional 2 youth centers in town, because we do know that the youth center in Colonia doesn't service all of our youth. So we've been working tirelessly to find places to solve that issue, where our kids from Woodbridge, our kids from Fort, where they have a place to go to. So that's in the works. I just want to assure you of that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amber Jarrett, and I reside in Woodbridge proper. I spoke at the last township meeting to advocate for the reallocation of some of the funds currently designated for the police department to other social and community services that have been proven to have positive impacts on communities and are proactive measures for crime reduction and prevention. This position has been deeply twisted and misconstrued by many in the township, and has even led to public threats of violence against our groups. Sadly, I cannot say I am surprised by these hateful and hurtful comments. In the 9 years I've lived in Woodbridge as a white resident, I've heard many disheartening and racially biased comments from people who are considered pillars in this community. These are educators, township employees, former Boy Scout leaders, firemen, and local business owners. I'm not here tonight to discuss those comments, but I do want to say that the one thing every single one of those individuals have in common, they grew up here. They went to schools here. The fact that they are so comfortable speaking the way they do to other white residents is evidence of this town's climate and culture. To believe this thinking is not also present in our police department is naive and potentially dangerous. I am not anti-police. I believe police serve a necessary function in society, and I know there are times where police act very heroically, but they are not superheroes. They are human beings. And you combine the culture in which many of them as lifelong residents of this town have been raised in with the training that they receive that emphasizes the potential for danger in any situation, and you increase the risk of unnecessary violence. The police in this town and across the country are asked to do too much. Mayor McCormick himself spoke about police officers deploying Narcan on average twice a week. While it's great that they are saving lives, police are not medical professionals. They are not addiction counselors. The administration of Narcan does not solve the addiction problem that is obviously still very prevalent in our town, despite the peer recovery coach program. The reallocation of funds to other programs will allow police to focus on their actual duties. Mayor McCormick recently responded to this call of reallocation of funds in a statement he read at a June meeting and that was later published by The Corner. I'd like to offer a rebuttal to his statements. One of his first points was that the township has spent nearly $160 million on school infrastructure projects spanning over a 10-year period. I'd be very curious to learn how much of that $160 million investment came from funds that were collected in lieu of property taxes through tax abatement and exemption programs for businesses and developers. These programs allow developers to pay a lump sum to the township, and then property taxes are eliminated or greatly reduced, typically for a period of 5 years. Property taxes are, however, the primary source of income for public schools. So did you, in fact, just invest money back into where that money should have gone in the first place? Other programs highlighted by the mayor include affordable housing, the need for which was documented in the township's executive summary for community development block grants. According to this report by U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development definitions, 42% of Woodbridge families are in the lowest income categories in relation to housing. Mayor McCormick boasts of the hundreds of affordable housing units being constructed, but I would argue that the need is far greater than hundreds. In that 42%, at least 6% of residents live in poverty, the rate being lower for white residents at only 4%, and more than double for black and brown residents. In the same executive summary, it is stated the township does not maintain comprehensive statistics on domestic violence and instances of homelessness. How can the township know if the programs being invested in and implemented are having a positive impact when no comprehensive statistics are maintained? The mayor mentions in the article funding for the Ozanam Homeless Shelter and Camp Kitty Keep Well. Both of these programs are county initiatives. With 100,000 residents of our own, approximately 6,000 of whom, I've said, live in poverty, why are we not investing in our own township initiatives? The shelter has 16 beds for single women and space for 26 families, but it serves all of Middlesex County. Camp Kitty Keep Well can provide services to 150 children a year, again, throughout the county. The need in this town alone is far greater than both of those. Other programs highlighted were the Domestic Violence Response Team, Tooling Around Town, and We Feed Woodbridge. All of these are great programs, but again, very misleading in terms of township investment and funding. These programs are also very heavily reliant on donations and volunteer involvement. The last program mentioned by the mayor in the article was the Police Ride-Along program for minority communities to, and I'm quoting, better educate them on interactions with police officers as they take children and adults on ride-alongs. I have several questions about the need for such a program. One, if our nationally accredited police department is free of racial bias, why do black and brown children need to be taught how to interact with our police officers? Why is the responsibility for their safety put on them? Why just black and brown residents? My white sons have never been invited. Is this a reflection of your belief that they are more likely to interact with the police, or is it a reflection of your belief that they are most likely to be injured or even killed by the police? This is not about being anti-police or anti-American. It is about supporting our community and holding our police department and our elected leaders accountable for who they pledge to be. In the words of the recently passed John Lewis, freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched high on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest.
Time is up, thank you.
Council President, may I just
Yes, Councilman
address
Fair.
that there's a couple of things in there. The pilot program that we take advantage of to improve certain areas of our town, the reduction in funding does not go to the local municipality. It takes money out of the pot for the federal government, the state government, and the county government. When we get that money, we can do whatever we want with that money, but we choose to reinforce the structure, the physical plant of the school system so that they can spend their money on educational aspects, whether it's curriculum or computers. The Housing Authority, jumping over to another item, is a separate entity of the municipal government. It's actually federal. I serve on that board. I did before I was a councilman. You obviously have seen the improvements on Buns Lane, which is formerly Woodbridge Gardens, which is now Jacob's Landing. The folks that live there had to mandatorily be put someplace for themselves that they chose so that everything could be upgraded and new buildings can be built. So there's a lot of shuffling going on, which causes our numbers to be skewed as far as housing and that type of thing. But we're now in our third phase, And in the end, there's going to be 50 extra units. I'm only talking about that project. I'm not talking about overall. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about that you mentioned, and it was a good point. A couple of other issues. The mental health issue as it relates to police. In my work with the Housing Authority, Council President, if I'm talking too much, cut me off like everybody else. What we've noticed in the Housing Authority, and I only have knowledge of that because of my intimate involvement in it, there seems to be a cycle where there is a mental health emergency. The police department are called. They don't just know, somebody calls them. They go to the situation, they calm the situation down, they take the people to be looked at by the medical profession. They're looked at, released, and the cycle continues. So through the Housing Authority, there has been some questions about could there be follow-up. We have a very active substance abuse counseling program, a model. It is truly a model. You looked up a lot of things. Look that up. It's led by a neurosurgeon, not a neurosurgeon, a neurologist, Dr. Bonnie Nolan. It's a model. We provide that service for other towns. My point of that is we're trying to look at that to assist the police with mental health. I think if you ask any police officer, once they do that, do their job of calming the situation down, taking them to the hospital, and then they got to go back again. If we have follow-up, like we do with substance abuse counselors, that might be able to assist. So that's another area that you spoke about. One other area in regards to, and I know Councilman Anderson is listening, that we have talked about and had good dialogue is that I use the analogy, when I was growing up, I was exposed to good gym teachers and good coaches. So I was a gym teacher and a coach in my professional career and an athletic director. I believe that if children in general of all cultures are exposed to good police officers at a very young age, maybe they will grow up to have a desire to be a police officer. Not when they're 10, not when they're in middle school or high school, but I'm talking about 3rd and 4th grade. So I know there's some. I know there's some.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's not a debate, he's just saying, you had 5 minutes. Now, Councilman Anderson wants to address some of the issues. The program with the police department, the ride-along, is not only for minorities. It's open to.
the newspaper.
It's open to all of our residents, just like our junior police academy or senior police academy. They're open to all of our residents.
Well, then the mayor should probably correct
I
that.
think Council Anderson will address that because he participated. Anyway, ma'am, I didn't want to, Amber, I didn't want to take all that time, but I am a big proponent of DARE. DARE, the program DARE was in place for a long time and it was removed because statistics showed that it was geared towards substance abuse and it wasn't really attaining that goal. The organization, which I have nothing to do with, went back and rewrote the curriculum. I know my son is a DARE officer in Somerville, and there is a good relationship with the young people, and I think they want to grow up to potentially be a police officer. So that is a grassroots way of possibly inspiring young people of all colors, of all cultures, to hopefully aspire to be a police officer. Council President, I'm sorry.
That's okay,
I'm off
thank
my
you.
soapbox.
Are there any other comments this evening? And also reminding the public, if I can, that if you don't plan on speaking, there is a line of people outside still waiting to come in to speak. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you only get a one-time 5-minute. If you want to reach out to me, you can. You have my phone number, Lisa. You can reach out to any one of us, and then we can, if you have any, whatever else just came to mind, just send it to us.
Kind of beat me to the punch. My name's Don Green. I've been a resident of Woodbridge for 23 years. My experience with the police department has been benign in general. My interactions have all been pretty decent. What I wanted to kind of propose to the council is what I'm hearing out loud. I just kind of came here to hear what was going to be communicated. Is folks don't believe they're being heard. I've heard loud and clear that you are hearing them, but there's a difference between you hearing them and them being felt that they're being heard. So outside of the 5-minute allocation of time that you guys are graciously giving of your time, you might want to consider creating that forum, whether it be a town hall or what have you, where the exchange could be a little bit more robust and that the communication flow can be two-way versus being one-way. And I believe if we do that, then the synergies and the remedies and the solutions that folks are seeking for can be put into effect. So just give that some consideration.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from anybody here this evening? One
Wait,
second,
wait.
sir.
He's going.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Jimenez. I live in Avenel, and I came to talk about the defunding of the police, and specifically why it needs to happen. Now, 5 years ago, after the murders of Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, and Trayvon Martin, people were told police would get implicit bias training, body cameras, all that stuff. 5 years later, it's clear that reform isn't working, and the solution is to take their toys away in the ministerial scope of power. And let me tell you why. Policing is a form of harm for black and brown communities, and no amount of reform, by any means, or training, will be effective in preventing police violence because it's an institution designed to use violence to fix problems in society. The militarization of the police has caused them to view the public as a force to be neutralized. Black Americans are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. And beyond this, they are also disproportionately arrested, surveilled, and jailed. Murders, rapes, and violent crimes occur even with massive police forces. Usually what they do is come and take reports after this stuff happens. They're not actually preventing it. We need prevention interventions and alternatives to policing that address the societal factors that lead to people to commit crimes like addiction and poverty. It's not about punishing police. It's about preventing violence and potentially death. Police cannot solve all our problems. Now let me hit you with a number. Police arrest 10 million people every year. 80% of those arrests are due to minor offenses like drug possession or drinking in public. This is an example of over-policing. However, only 5% of those arrests are for violent crimes. So this is under-policing. How is it that your system is so broken that there is over-policing and under-policing both at the same time? Now you might be wondering, these are national statistics. This doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing anything wrong, us in Woodbridge. But let me tell you something. You've probably heard the statistic multiple times before, but even in Woodbridge, black and brown residents are 70% more likely to have excessive force use on them. And as you probably already know, Woodbridge is a city, compared to the state average, excessive force is used more than usual. Now let me tell you something in terms of the big picture. If you see that there's something going on in society, you see that this group is getting disproportionate treatment from this group of police officers, right? If you see that there is something wrong with society, are you going to attribute that to social Darwinism? Are you going to attribute that because these people just happen to be committing more crime and that's just in their nature? Or are you going to acknowledge that this is because this is a broken system? That you are going to acknowledge that it's because they have been brought up with inequality? If you believe that societal factors are not the reason why black and brown communities are struggling, that is inherently racist. That is racist. You can't just say, oh, it's because they tend to do this more. They don't make as many. They just make more bad decisions. Really? Well, I hope it wasn't a bad decision for me to come up here today. Because last time, when I had to build up the courage to air out my grievances, I didn't get a single comment from any of you. Just looks. And more blank stares. I'm done.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public this evening?
Okay, great. Okay, great. My name is Michelle, resident of Avenel. I grew up in this town. It's been my home for 20 plus years. Growing up here meant that the mayor was someone who I always admired, respected, and wanted to be like. I know he's not here today, but you guys can pass the message along to him. Whether it be coming into Avenel 4 and 5 to read to us, congratulating me at the Study Iron Olympics or township track meets, or handing me numerous proclamations, the mayor always seemed to be there for some of my greatest memories and successes in this town. I've lived without a father for the past 10 or so years, and I remember on my senior night for a few years back, with my sister at college, my mom was the only one able to make it to the game. The mayor was there and offered to take a picture with the three of us, a pic that I appreciated and even posted in my dorm at Harvard my freshman year of college. This is all to say, I thought I knew who the mayor was. I thought he was a leader, someone who could be there for others and lift the town above all. I even thought this up until the protests last month. You marched with us, claimed to be there for us, and even supported us. And so when I came with ideas, new perspectives, and hopes for a better Woodbridge for people who look just like me, I thought you'd understand. You even said, I'm willing to talk, and offered to work together. Multiple ignored phone calls, emails, and now 2 missed council meetings later, it's clear that was all a lie. And like a kid who finds out that Santa isn't real, I as an adult am disappointed to see you for who you really are. Just another politician who's unwilling to even listen to residents of color or take a stand in any issue in fears of, in his own words, pissing off half the town and not getting reelected. It seems he cares more about his electoral prospects than serving and representing all residents, particularly the growing minority community in this town. Racism exists in Woodbridge. Police brutality exists in Woodbridge. Inequities and underrepresentation of minorities exist in Woodbridge. We shouldn't hide this and be scared to call it out. Many uninformed residents are under the impression that we as a group just demanded and left no room for conversation. That's wrong. In fact, read the transcript from June 9th. I was the only person here. I asked for just that, conversation. Initially, only Mr. Anderson was proactive in reaching out. The rest of you were quick to run to your corners of pre-existing positions or just not say anything at all. The town spokesman is making statements to the press saying that you're working on the demands. But I must ask, what exactly are you working on? And who is working on it? Is it just the mayor who in an email directly to me said that there hasn't been an excessive force claim since 2007? Wrong. Is it Mr. Spiller who's making Facebook posts publicly minimizing our goals and rationale and saying we don't speak anymore in regards to people who disagree with him? As an elected official serving the public, you're not going to speak to people anymore? Ironically enough, the underfunded Avenel Fire Department could be a beneficiary and would be a beneficiary of our redirected funding. Or is it Mr. Small, who literally turns his back on residents and says the police shouldn't care about public opinion, even though they're public workers? And how can you say now that that you care about public opinion when you quite literally turned your back on other residents? I ask because the people who are in denial that an issue exists should not be the ones tasked with solving the issue without inclusion and input of residents who face said issues. And so I'm asking the mayor and council, loop us into your work on demands, provide transparency to us on what you're working on, and initiate a public dialogue that neighboring towns such as Homedale or Montclair have already done, or in the similar vein of the recent Minority Relations Committee that was spearheaded by Mr. Anderson. Our calls for better as lifelong residents should be taken seriously because of our experiences. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Threatening to run us over, bitch slapping our parents, or any other form of violence is shameful, but it should go to show the hate that's alive in this town when, God forbid, a group of minorities ask for improved safety and a shift to a town that includes our well-being and interests. The late John Lewis once said, and God rest his soul, when you see something that's not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to do something. And so I'm asking the mayor, the council, what will you do?
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has any comments tonight?
Give me a second. If anyone that's sitting here and is not speaking, if you would like to give your chair to somebody else, because we do have a line of people waiting to get in. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Javier Pasmino. I live in the Woodbridge section of our township, and I am a proud member and co-social media coordinator of Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity. My displeasure is mostly with the backlash and disapproval towards what we are trying to do. We are looking to come together and solve a problem in this town that has been ignored for too long. One of my biggest issues with everything that is going on is that we are being seen as radical, when all we are asking is to move in a direction that's better for all of us. There's a false narrative about this town. Woodbridge Township loves to brag about diversity. They want to give off this image of tolerance and diversity when in reality that's not the case. I want more from the council people because if they're going to represent us, I want our demands and voices to be heard. I want more from the mayor. I want action. I don't want people to show up to our events for a photo op. I don't want people to do what they have done in the past. I want actual representation. I want for my fellow people of color to feel safe. It starts with our youth. Various photos and videos of white youth doing blackface tells us something that we all know. This is inherited. Racism is inherited. We need to do more in terms of discipline. I want students to be held more accountable for their racist actions. I need more to be done because I want my fellow youth to feel safe when they go to school. I want more to be done. Being in charge of social media for this organization, I've seen what grown adults have said to my face, what I've said to my fellow members of this group, and it makes me sick to think that they could sit behind a screen and tell people of color, tell youth how to feel about something. What have you experienced in your life to tell me and to validate the way that I feel? If the council continues to ignore us, they are making their intentions clear. They are telling all people of color in Woodbridge Township that their opinion is not valued, that their voice is not heard, and that they do not actually care about our safety and our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? I'm sorry, the woman just stood up.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Osborne. I'm a lifelong resident of Woodbridge Township all my life. And you can see by my appearance, you know that's a long, long time. I had the unique opportunity of standing out on the stairs, listening to a respectful crowd most of the time. And I must confess that it was a group of adults that started to agitate. And then, of course, there was a youthful response, but there was a wonderful woman out there who calmed everybody down. So it's been peaceful for a large portion of the time. All right, I'm here because I was deeply concerned when I read the emails, read the demands, looked on YouTube, all right, and spoke to several people about the issues facing our community. Now, I just heard Michelle speak, and it was quite elegant, and I did look him up on the internet to see what he was all about and the group that he belonged with. And he's doing exactly what that group is supposed to do, reaching out into a community to correct what they think are issues, concerns, or possibly discrimination. That group also met with the Board of Education, who is now taking steps to implement curriculum that will correct some of the things and address some of the issues that they think are very pertinent, dealing with ethnics and dealing with their cultures and conflicts of cultures. What went out on the steps, which was a unique experience, was a clash of generations. And that will happen. Dislocations will happen. I lived through the Oak Tree District uprising, I guess you'd call it, and we were able, because of the cultural clashes that occurred there, which, I'm going to be honest with you, were racist, and we began to work together as a community. I think everybody in this room is here for a purpose, a unique purpose, to make Woodbridge a better place, a more convivial place for all of our residents. The mayor and the council instituted the Public Relations Commission just recently, of which I'm a member. Carrie, you are too. Did you speak on it? All right, and Glenn Morgan has reached out to Michelle, and they had a wonderful conversation. I reached out to council people and discussed some of the issues. The Human Relations Commission is just starting. We set our agenda, we have a mission statement, and we're setting a public meetings. We're trying to get going as fast as we can. And that will be a wonderful forum for either the police, members of the community, our church-based leaders to come, as well as members of the council, to discuss what they think are items, issues, concerns, to deal with them in the community. I welcome everybody here. I thank everybody coming here, and although they can't hear me, I thank the people on the stairs for coming, because we need to communicate. We need to look and focus our attention on what we can achieve together, because that's the only way we can address the concerns that are legitimate in the eyes of the community and resolve it. We'll make recommendations to the council. We'll make recommendations to the mayor. All right? We are not all powerful, but we are a venue for anyone that wants to air their concerns and have those issues looked at, examined, discussed, and perhaps come out with a positive solution. All right? People tend to see things one way or the other. Sometimes there's a middle road that we can follow, and as we follow that road, we can achieve our goals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, do you mind letting him, because he's been trying to get up for like the longest time. I'm sorry. He's been trying to get there for a while now.
Okay, my name is Jabran Abdulhai.
I'm sorry, can state your name and what part of the township you're...
You're good with the mic, if you
All
could
right.
just say it a little
My
louder.
name is Jabran Abdulhai. I live in Fords, New Jersey, pretty much a lifelong resident. I went to Woodbridge High School, graduated in 2018. And I just wanted to just say some stuff that's been on my mind as I've watched this movement sort of unfold. And I guess the first point I'm going to make is the issue of reform. First of all, there's a trained disparity between, police and law enforcement and, other professions. Like, for example, my barber will get, more hours of required training than some police officers. And, it's kind of jarring to think about the fact that someone who's, they're holding a blade to my hair.
Can you speak up a little bit,
Sorry.
a little louder, please?
Sorry. And it's just jarring to think that someone who, is just cutting my hair is required to have more training than someone who can, point a gun at my head, for example. That points to the need for reform. And so does the racial injustice that people have experienced. I know people personally who have been, victims of, racial profiling in dealing with the police. And that points to a need for reform, first of all. But that's just, I feel, the first sort of step on the path to, mending communities' relations. Now I want to talk about rethinking public safety. First of all, defunding the police, which is probably the most talked about issue. But I just want to point out that people have painted this as an unreasonable talking point or demand, but I'd like to point out that we're only asking for 15% reduction, and we're not just that money doesn't go into a vacuum. That money is redistributed in crime prevention rather than crime response, which is law enforcement is a reactive institution responding to crime after it happens most of the time. But what if we took some of that money and invested it in institutions that prevent crime from occurring in the first place, so that we don't need to rely on the police as much, because as of right now, we're asking too much of the police to respond to mental health crises, intoxication, when we could have specialized people who are professionals at dealing with these specific niches. And in de-escalation of this situation, of these situations, because they can be unpredictable, and that could be a situation that could go wrong for a police officer who's trained to sort of be on edge when dealing with criminals. And we're certainly not asking, we're not even asking for in some cities, they've been asking 50% of the police to be defunded. Or in Minneapolis, they disbanded their police and they're going to replace it with a whole new form of law enforcement. That's not what we're asking for. We're merely asking for some of the money from the police budget to be redistributed back into the community for the better well-being of its people, because if people are better off, they're less likely to commit crime, because much of crime is an act of desperation when you lose faith in the institutions of democracy to serve your needs, and you feel like you have to do it on your own, and sometimes people turn to illegal means to fulfill those needs. The second part of rethinking the public safety I want to point out is policing is not the end of the means. Public safety is the goal. Policing is just one way to achieve that goal. And like I said before, coming up with these new ways to achieve public safety alongside policing is a modern way to approach this, and I think this is the way we should do so going forward. And another one of the demands from the WLYE I want to address is getting police out of schools, because this was largely a reaction to mass shootings in schools, but time and time again it doesn't work. And in a place that we're all familiar with in Parkland, the police officer on duty in that school did nothing about the situation and fled the school like everyone else. So if they're not really preventing crime in schools, what's the point of having them? That's just an extra portion of the budget that's being wasted, frankly. And there's one more thing I want to touch on, and that's the shift of power in this community. And I think starting with this movement, we're starting to see young people step up for the first time in their lives and experiment in participating in the public discourse and in democracy. And over time, you're going to be seeing a shift in power to us once we, once the stick's passed on to us. So I feel like our demand should be taken seriously.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public? And again, please keep in mind that there are still people waiting to speak outside. So if you're not going to speak, if you can free up a seat. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Lee Darden from Avenel. I just wanted to touch upon some discourse that has been going on in the town since the last town council meeting. It seems like there's a lot of misinformation going around, so I just wanted to try to correct a few things. It seems like a lot of the town members took issue with the word demand, and they were saying things like, that's not how you start a conversation, we're not run by mob rule. But I just wanted to point out, these youth have been trying to reach out to you and the mayor for quite some time without getting a response back. It was at that point that they upgraded their language to demand. And at no point did they ever try to do mob rule. They always follow the democratic process. So I just wanted to make that point. Besides a lot of misinformation being spread, tensions are rising in town. I mean, we have someone outside in riot gear to meet us here. And so I understand from the comment that you made before that perhaps you're working on things behind the scenes, but I think it's important that you maybe try to communicate with everyone that you're working on it, because the tensions are getting bigger and bigger. And I would hate for you guys to wait till an act of violence occurs before you actually say something. I don't want a violent town. No one is here advocating for lawlessness. No one here is anti-police. A lot of these issues that are being brought to you, these are tough issues that are being brought to many city councils all across the state. No one's picking on you guys. You know what I mean? There's just a shift going on, and we need to react to it. So with that being said, we're about peace. We're not here to fight people in the parking lot. I don't know what's going on out there. But, just please get together. Let's please have the forum. I think that was something that I requested the last time I was here. It would make things a lot smoother if we could just have an open conversation. Just us kind of talking at you and us not really getting to hear your response. It's not moving forward anywhere, and we want to move forward. Who wants to keep protesting town council meetings? I mean, we will if you guys aren't going to respond, but we're looking for peace. We're not looking for fighting, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your name and
Hi,
address,
everybody.
please.
Anjali Holt, Woodbridge proper. So I feel that we've given fear and ignorance too much power for too long in Woodbridge. The last time I was here, I asked all of you to take a step towards anti-racism, meaning learn what that means. It's your job as leaders.
Excuse me, sir, if you're going to take pictures, please go to the blue box. If you're going to record or take pictures, go to the blue box. Thank you.
It's your job as leaders to represent all members of this community, not just those who look, think, and vote like you. In order to represent Black people, you must understand the history, the disparity, the systems that perpetuate Black trauma. I hope you took those steps, but if you did, we can't tell. Despite our repeated efforts at resolution and the urgency with which our groups have requested the support from our leaders, the council members and John McCormick of Woodbridge Township, New Jersey, have yet to respond with a plan of action or a commitment to the safety and protection of Black and brown residents of our town and their allies. There's been no public statement of support or expressed concern for Black and brown residents or their physical and mental health. There's been no consideration of preventative police policy reform and accountability measures. There's been no commitment to anti-racist policies, no commitment to diversity or inclusion of Black representation in your hiring practices and forming of committees. There's been no condemnation for the racist backlash that we're facing and the threats made against the people of this township. We are not criminals. We are not lawless. We are educated. We have jobs. We have families that we love. My Black mother-in-law is a doctor. My Black husband, it works long 10-hour days as a union laborer. My Black children, they want to graduate and go to college just like everybody else. The response to these urgent concerns has been aggression, resistance, denial, unwavering loyalty for current standards of policing, despite the racial profiling and everything else that's happened. It's imperative that the representatives of this community and those that govern them understand that racism is not just a national issue. It's one that Black and brown residents are confronted with every day, even in Woodbridge. When white leaders deny the existence of racism, they are saying that they do not trust, believe, or care about the Black experience. This is why Black residents have been forced to demand representation. The lack of representation is reflected in our public positions and offices. 93% of school teachers are listed as white, despite 65% of town students being non-white. 210 police officers, yet only 5 are listed as Black. Out of the 9 council members that I counted, 3 are non-white, only 1 identifies as Black. So while we hope that we would be using our collective knowledge and resources to help solve social problems here in Woodbridge, instead we're forced to utilize our energy to argue and validate the Black experience and to try to prove that systemic and blatant racism in Woodbridge actually happens. As vested members of this community, many owning property, businesses, and having a stake in this town, devaluing this community or our police force has never been a desire or a considered outcome, but we are left with no other path forward for an equitable future for all Woodbridge residents than to continue these protests and to continue demanding your representation. Our silence will no longer condone violence, be it emotional or physical harm. In just a few months of activism that I've been doing, I've personally seen racism and white supremacy is deeply ingrained, accepted, protected, and continues to flourish in our government, in our schools, in our neighborhoods. If you allow racists to be teachers, leaders, be in your police forces, you're perpetuating this. You have to make anti-racist policies. We have presented statistics to show the lack of cultural inclusion in our schools, the town, the police department, public staff, and how that lack of inclusion increases the risk of harm for Black and brown bodies. Still nothing. We have presented and many have emailed you their experiences of racial incidents in town, highlighting racist and tone-deaf comments made by government officials and residents of this town. Still nothing. All demands were thought out, developed with support, review, suggestion, informed, concerned, contributing residents of Woodbridge who are educated. Some of them are professors. Diversity and inclusion review boards. We've actually helped these kids every step of the way. They're not coming uneducated, or they're really doing their homework here. But please don't refuse to listen, because if you don't, just because you don't like the tone. Because most people, especially out there, are worshiping a president who has zero political correctness whatsoever. So please don't tone police these kids, because everything they're saying is valid. And that's very telling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening? Anybody else doing it? Yeah. You can just take a seat. Nobody's
I'm sorry, can you take a seat until he's done and then you can get up unless you're recording? Unless you guys had a code, you were gonna speak separately, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah, so I just want the people that are recording back there and then
I just thought it was the next one up was Stan.
yeah, once he comes,
I apologize.
no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right now?
Yes.
Good
Sorry.
evening, Tom Maris, Forest, New Jersey. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Rather an interesting time. It's one of the most, obviously, it is the most interesting council meeting I've been to in probably over 15 years. And frankly, I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see the young people that are here representing their views, their opinions, what they'd like to see in the town that they grew up in, hopefully most of them did, and that they're going to stay here and continue to be good citizens as time goes by. I mean, a lot of us certainly have done that. My family's been here since the mid-1950s, so I've seen this town go through a lot of machinations, a lot of changes. And I've been here many, many times, as you well know, to challenge the council and to try to get you to think about certain things in certain ways. Sometimes successful, sometimes not. It's the same thing with these people. I hear a lot of broad-based things being said about our police department and budgets, but I would say to the people, go in and really look at the budgets. Break them down. As I had a great conversation with a young man out here with all the yelling and screaming going on, I walked up and talked to him, to a young lady. We had a wonderful conversation, great exchange. He gave me some insights. I hope I gave him some. And that's really what we're talking about here. How do we reach the council? How do we get the council to look at? But then it becomes, what are we looking at? What's wrong with our cops? What's wrong with our budget? I haven't had anybody tell me that. Have they looked through it to say, do we actually have enough money in for the police that we require for this town? And it's a growing town. We're adding several more thousand apartments here. That's going to add a lot more people. Obviously, it's going to bring all the other infrastructure needs that go along with it, including policing, stores, traffic. All those are important. So we would not even be funded enough at this point in time. But as far as defunding, what do you specifically want to defund? Do you not want those officers on the job? Or is there other places we can come to the county council and say, you're spending money, and this is one of my pet peeves, you know that, on community centers and buying $16, $20 million businesses that should have been private, health club, which money could have been used for these programs that they're talking about and funded all of those for many, many years. So I kind of sympathize with them on that point. The point is, open up the dialogue like that young man and I did and the young lady out there, and we had a wonderful time. I think this young lady here at a prior meeting was one of the ones talking about transparency in the budgets. And as you know, I'm very involved with Oprah and have been for years. And through Oprah, I've obtained a lot of information. If you don't find what you need, you can always go back and work with John Mish, the town clerk. He'll point you in the right direction as a professional. But you can ask for the monthly bill list. And from there, do your homework and track down. If you're looking to see where certain monies are being spent, that tells you. And also what you want is the CAF report. Forget the budget, get the CAF, which is the actual verified expenses that a town goes through. And that's certified by independent auditors outside of the community. They're hired and they're all certified. That will give you the actual monies that are being spent and where they're going. So again, when you come and you make demands, which really flies in the face of everybody, and most times you're going to get hostility rather than reception for it. Come armed with the information. We've looked at, can you tell me why? And you know the budgets are coming up for review now. We've taken a hell of a hit, the whole country has, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with our budgets. We have things like the community center that haven't had any income coming in. How are we going to fund them? How are we going to cover that bonding? What is that going to take away? So again, I'm just asking everybody, including the ones that I'm hoping these people would want to talk to their friends outside, as I did with mine, because I asked a few of them to be quiet because they were instigating, like the lady said before. Stop it. It serves no purpose to get into a shouting match with somebody because then nobody hears anybody, and there's no good that comes of it. So we talk, we can work through it, and hopefully we'll resolve it and present it to the council. And the only thing I would ask the council to do, and I think that's what these people are asking, is come back and say, we've looked at all of it. And this is what we can do or what we won't do, but why we won't do it. Because I don't think this town needs a lot of changes. I don't think we've got a lot of bad cops. We've had some bad apples. I know of no police force anywhere in the world that hasn't had bad cops. We got bad people in schools too, and I wish they weren't there. All we can do is when we see them, identify them, and I say this to the officers all the time too. If you know you've got a bad member in your rank and file, get them out. However you have to do that, get them out. Because what happens is exactly what we're seeing now. Somebody gets hurt that shouldn't have gotten hurt. Somebody is killed in a horrific manner that should never have been killed in that manner. And look what it's brought this country to. So stop, think, but most importantly, listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else this evening who has comments, and also to remind the public
Okay.
that people are still waiting to get in? Sir, there's a gentleman who already moved up to the microphone. And again, if you're not looking to speak tonight, if you would please consider giving your seat up to someone who's waiting to get in.
Tony Gallo, Port Reading. I just wanted to show up here tonight because I heard this whole thing was going on. It's true. Everything what Tom said is true. We should all be able to sit together and have a conversation. When I heard demands being made, and when I heard that they're looking to defund our police department, that's something I'm not going to stand for, because we certainly don't have our Second Amendment rights in New Jersey. So how are we going to defend ourselves and our families? So when I heard about defunding police, I wanted to make sure I was at this meeting to make sure that my voice was heard. This is something that's going on in this country, and it's very sad. You're never going to legislate stupid. You're going to have a lot of stupid cops that are going to do stupid things, unfortunately. Not every office is perfect, but here in Woodbridge, I think we have a lot of great officers. So to come up with these demands about defunding, this shouldn't even be on the table. Our offices probably need more money. I'm not going to hold you guys up because I know you got a lot of people outside looking to get in. I just wanted to say I'm here for the police. I think that we need to look, if there's something socially that needs to be done, because that's all I keep hearing, is that they want to take a 15% from the police to fund some other social thing. I'm sorry, I'm not for any of that. Thank you guys for your time. Have a great night and stay safe. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Trombador, if you'd like to take a seat closer, then you'll be next up.
Good evening. I'm from Colonia.
Your name, please, sir, for the record.
Your name.
Excuse me?
Your name.
Cy Mayerson. I'm from Colonia. I wish to just make a simple comment. I understand that the defund police is one of the things we're on. I have an opposite suggestion, that we put more money into the police for the following reason. Obviously, our culture now needs police that are educated in areas they haven't needed to be educated, or they did, no one recognized it in the past. And that be the following: in human relations. In other words, why shouldn't our police force, the police we currently have and new that are coming on, this goes for the whole country, but I'm talking about this particular place, and we put money into re-educating them as their police. They go and they get a degree in the human relations and all the things that has to do with communications, and all the things that the innocent people that are saying defund we should give to some community. The community should be an educated police force that end up with more dignity because they have another license or another degree that we pay for while they're cops. They go at night, and once they get it, maybe they get a raise, but they certainly will have more pride in what they do, and they will do a job that perhaps is much more humanized, even for the cops that are not that natural to dealing with people. They will learn how to do it. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm drawing up because we run some programs, not for this, for education. And I think that it's the opposite. We should fund the police so that this very important element of our lives actually becomes more educated on how to deal with people, because we now do that with high school and college students that get degrees in psychiatry, psychology, on human relations and communications. We give degrees in that. Why not send our police that are already cops and ones that are going to become cops, and it becomes another element to maintain their shield, so the shield becomes even more impressive in the years to come, because they learn all about the rest of their job as it is now. What I am saying is I'm going to be proposing that on a more national level. I don't want to get into that right now. But since we're from here, and I do believe that most of our police, forgive me if I'm naive, I'm from the Bronx in New York, so what do I know? I believe they're all good people. They have one major problem. They're human, so they're not perfect. Gee whiz. On the other hand, why do we spend all of this money sending our kids to high school and college? And the cops that we have working for us, we don't give them the gift of further education so they become more elite and happy with themselves, and we protect them more. And if anybody here is interested in what some of those specifics should be and what colleges they should go to, I'm available. Excuse me, that's the police. That's out of sanctum. I didn't mean it. Martians are my friends. And they're not human, so they're perfect. The bottom line is, I'm available. If you want to take my number, I'll give it to you, or I'll leave it outside, telephone number. And I'll be willing to talk to anybody here about this particular thing. Funding the police, but for the very reason I said. I thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Hi, my name is Rhonda Underwood. I live in Fort. At first, I wasn't going to speak, but when there was another person up here prior that was speaking about defunding police. We all know that we need police. Police are there to service the public. We understand that. All police are not corrupted. All police are not out here to hurt people. But when people are speaking of defunding the police, they're asking to take the resources and put it towards other things in the community. And even like the gentleman just said, even putting it back to educate the police more, maybe have more training, have better requirements for police when they are going up for the job. Just when you go for a job anywhere, there's always requirements, there's always a certain amount of experience or education that you need in order to get that position. That should be the same for the police. Because there are a lot of police out there that are educated and they are on the force and they are doing the correct thing. But then you have a lot of police out there that are not doing the correct thing and they are hurting, murdering, assaulting people. But that's not everybody. But then when you have a gentleman who was just in here and he's speaking and saying they want to put the money towards social things, that is not what these students are out there. That's not what we're out there fighting for. That's not what we're out there in the community to put the money towards social. It's to put it towards the community, to better the community, to have people come and be more supportive of each other. And I get emotional about this because I grew up in an area in Monmouth County. Monmouth County is very racist. And I moved from that county because that county is ridiculous. I grew up where my father was called a nigger. So to come here thinking I was moving to a better community for my children and for myself, to know that these things are going on, it's hurtful. It's hurtful. These children are out there, the parents are out there to be supportive, to be positive, and then you have people in the community lying, going in on the news or going in the on the newspaper, twisting the information, and that's not right. Because there are so many people out there that are fighting for positive, for community strength. And that's what we are out there trying to do. And like I said, usually I was just sitting there, I wasn't even gonna say anything. But some of the things that the people were saying was just like, are you really saying that? Is this what you truly believe? I like Woodbridge, I like this community. I like living here. And I wanna see it to be more positive. I have not had a bad experience here. Sometimes with the Board of Ed, well, with the school system, it's a little rough. But that's with any school district. But what I'm saying is people have to stop twisting the information. Because if you didn't grow up in an area where you have dealt with this, where your family has dealt with this, it's hard. It's hard, and you see it. And like I said, I've been there, I've lived there, I've been in those situations. And thank God my parents were able, and a lot of people in the community were able to have a positive relationship with the police, with the city council, with the mayor. you know, things weren't that bad. But there's always going to be racism. There's nothing we can do about that. But we can try to minimize it as much as possible. So when people come in here and they try to twist the story of what these students are doing, what everybody is out there doing, it's very hurtful. And we have to stop that. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening?
Yes. I'm going to let others go because I came back.
Good evening, everybody. Frank Trumbator, Strawberry Hill Avenue in Woodbridge. I live in probably one of the most diverse communities we have here. If you look from the Great Wall of China to Cutter Dock Road, we are very diverse in my neighborhood. Drive up and down, we don't have any problems. I promised myself I wasn't getting involved in this. In fact, I wrote a piece on Facebook about a week and a half ago. I said to defund the police, this whole movement, this is all part of the Democrat Party. Created the defund the movement, the police contribute to the Democratic Party, but the union puts their signs on their lawn. You're all one big family argument here. So I was gonna keep out of this until this morning. This morning I get a call from one of my people, one of my neighbors. They saw a tweet. This tweet came from these young folks. And this tweet, now they can roll their heads and roll their eyes, but adults seeing television, seeing the riots, seeing the burning, took this tweet as a threat to their lives and property. And I'll gladly give you the tweet. It's open-ended. It sounds like, do this or else. That doesn't go over good with senior citizens, doesn't go over good with anybody. People don't like threats. I don't like threats. Now they want to defund the police. They don't know what I know. They don't know what you know. That this township is 24 square miles. You got over 100,000 people here. And the last count, you had 187 police. That includes the guys that are in headquarters. To cover this township 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that a guy who had a heart attack on April the 15th, 2019, waited 22 minutes for help when he was only 8 minutes away from here. That was me. I went and grabbed my keys and I was going to drive myself to JFK with a heart attack while everybody's yelling to defund the police. One other point. Came in this building, 7 police, 6 of color, 1 white guy. The 6 of color smiled and said hello to me when I smiled and said hello to them. The white guy growled at me. Just the way it works. Everybody has tasted racism at one time or another. Be in the deep south with an Italian surname wearing a uniform. You'll find out what racism's about. You'll find out. But I said my piece. I wasn't going to come here because I find myself as a constitutional libertarian under the Republican Party defending the Democrats. But you're my government, and I'm here to defend you. It sounded like you were being threatened. And my people, my friends, my constituents asked me to come here to represent them. I'd rather be floating in my pool right now. I said my piece. If you need any help, let me know. These kids have an idea, but we need to be able to talk to each other and admit that there's a constitution and a freedom on both sides. And both sides need to be listened to and not screamed at. Tensions are high, the heat is high, and tempers go higher with temperature. It's just a human condition. Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Since he was in here before me, am I allowed to ask questions?
You can ask questions. You have 5 minutes. I mean, we don't guarantee an answer.
Okay, so I guess my first question would be, as stated by the mayor previously.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and what part of the township you're from?
My name is Elijah Dickinson from Woodbridge Township. My first question would be, as stated by the mayor, the crime rate is going down. So what is the need for, or more, where is the money for increase of police funding going towards? Anybody can answer. There's 8 people.
Madam President, the budget's not out yet. There's no
Right,
talk
but you
about
guys
it.
have obviously had conversations on where you would like the money to go to, is correct?
We actually haven't started the budget process yet, not with the council.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my question. My question is, you guys, where would you, so I'm sure if you guys had an idea of increasing the budget, there's a conversation of what's gonna go into that budget, correct?
The way the budget would work is the directors of the various departments would present a budget, and the council has the opportunity to question if there's an increase or a decrease, what area is going to be affected. That process has not started yet.
Right, so, but I'm sure everybody here has their own opinion. If you guys are gonna be the one who makes the decision, I'm sure everybody here has an opinion on, and I'm sure it's a collective opinion as well, on where the funding will go towards. So clearly it looks as though the funding is looking to be increased. So where would you guys, since you guys seem to be part of the decision, where would you guys consider the funding to go to?
I'm trying to make myself clear is that when the opportunity comes up, whether it's the police that you're referring to or any other department, I don't know what they're going to ask for. They could ask for a decrease. I don't know, or we don't know. But when it's presented to us, we have to weigh the value of it and make a decision. I have no indication that they're asking for more money. So that's the best I can do right now. After the budget is presented, it might be I might have a different answer.
Okay, so next question. My next question would be, why don't you guys have cameras in here in terms of like this meeting being publicly recorded for public record?
Okay,
So-
the cameras are recording our meeting.
I don't
You-
see any cameras pointing towards
They
you.
are, they're up there.
But they're
Those
not
two.
pointing towards, they're pointing towards you guys, but they're not pointing towards me.
We can hear, everybody can hear you. So if you go to YouTube and you hear our council meetings, everything that you're saying is being recorded, and everyone that watches YouTube or TV 35 can hear your comments.
But would you say having somebody on camera, having a face to put towards a voice, changes the impact of what's being said?
That's your opinion.
I'm asking you.
That's your opinion.
I'm asking you your individual opinion. Okay, so since my time's still running, there seems to be a representation issue in Woodbridge. There's 12 seats up here. There's 8 people in the council who are currently present, and there's not a single person of color.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna say,
I said here currently at the moment.
I'm gonna say, I consider myself a person of color. I am Latina.
Okay, so, but you consider yourself a person of color, as to the naked eye, let's say. Clearly from the
Okay.
naked eye. If I don't personally know you, are you
Okay.
necessarily a person of color?
My name is Lisbeth de Jesus.
But would I have known your name? If I can't see it from here, maybe the camera can't see it from there. So clearly it's not necessary, it's a naked eye thing. When a police officer pulls somebody over, and let's say they pulled you over, would they instantly assume you're a person of color without knowing your name, without taking your identification?
I get your point.
Okay, so then that's my issue. So my issue is a representation thing. There's 12 seats up here. There's 8 people. To the naked eye, to make a more correction, to the naked eye, there's not enough representation. How many people of the 8 people here, all white, or 7 of them white, 1 person of color? How many people raise your hand if you would step down to give your position up to somebody who's a person of color?
We live in a democracy, so anybody can run for office. Anybody can be elected for office.
But not everybody, but we all know not everybody has the same power to get into office, correct?
But we live in the United States of America, so everybody has an opportunity to choose whether they want to run for office or not. And they have, you can be elected. Should you choose to run for office, you can be elected.
So, all right, so this is public knowledge. Did Trump win the popular vote?
No, he did not.
Okay, so that proves my answer. So if necessarily for the president, who represents the entire country, if the popular vote doesn't help with that, how can I exactly expect something for as little as a town to represent, to give everybody equal voting opportunity? Number one.
Because we don't have the same process for voting. I'm sorry, Councilman.
But you guys would consider yourself a diverse community, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so look at it in this situation. If you're a job, and let's say you guys are all shareholders, everybody in here is black, everybody's in here an employee. Do the employees have any say in what you guys get to do? No, because they don't have any power. So if we have 8 people up here, nobody of color, and as I seen in the last meeting, Kyle Anderson is looking to be removed. So that's going to take even more people out. Where is the mindset, or where's the ideas from both sides coming in? As you guys heard from
I'm sorry,
other
your
people-
time is up.
Of course it is, because nobody can answer my question.
You asked about 6 of them. Tried to answer every one.
They all didn't get answers, did they?
Maybe not to your needs.
They didn't all get answers. That's
The problem is that we're all talking and we're not listening to each other. We're not willing to listen to each other, and we're not being respectful of our differences of opinion.
So if we're trying to listen to each other, why
Sir.
And I'm sorry, your time is up. I mean, I can speak to you if you want one-on-one.
do you have contact information I can take?
I can,
Thank you. Since clearly I have a time.
or you can, I mean, I'll give it to you here, but anybody that wants my information can go to the clerk's office.
Sir.
Crystal Edison, New Jersey. I just want to let the town council president.
You can take that off because we can't
Oh,
hear you.
I got to take it off American with Disabilities Act anyway. I want to say to the town council president that the moment I look at you, I already know you're a Latina. I don't know what was being said before. I want to say to you, there were many times that Democrats won without the popular vote, and they got the electoral vote because that's the rules. I saw you had a big grin on your face. I just want you to know Trump won fair and square, and I'm sorry about that. Kyle Anderson, I'm here. I wasn't going to come here today. I was coming here no matter what. I'm not here for the pro-police people. I'm not here for BLM. I support both. It doesn't matter. I was coming no matter what because there's an issue that I want to deal with Lincoln Annex School. Councilman Kyle Anderson happens to be the county superintendent of schools.
Can I
He's not
interrupt
here.
you for a
Yes,
second?
ma'am.
I'm sorry. John, time. I just want to interrupt
Time.
you. If it has anything to do with county superintendent, then you need to go to the freeholders meeting.
Okay.
This is Woodbridge Township. This is our, you
No
can say
problem.
whatever you want to say, but we're not going to address any issues
Oh, no, I
that have
understand.
nothing to do with
But-
Woodbridge
But I can
Township.
continue during public
Okay.
comments, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Start my time back up now?
Yes, we did.
The racist left-wing radical enabled by the Middlesex County Democratic Organization is being hailed as a hero by Woodbridge Black Lives Matter because he is the first black Woodbridge councilman. So if you expose, he wants to shove low-income Hispanic minority children in a warehouse on contaminated property where they can develop cancer. They scream you're a racist. If you're wondering what school I'm talking about Lincoln Annex School. Even Reverend Al Sharpton is supporting the Lincoln Annex School. Woodbridge Black Lives Matter enable Kyle Anderson to attack disabled people, military veterans, and disabled military veterans. He has sold out the Hispanic minority communities. He claims to champion minorities and the children of New Brunswick to get in good with Middlesex County Democratic Organization Chairman Kevin McCady and Jack Morris, a Democratic political operative and donor. When they say don't attack Mr. Anderson because he is black, you should be able to criticize anybody. It doesn't matter if you're an igloo, if you're from Mars. I don't care who you are. If you're doing something wrong, you got to get called out. For not calling someone out just because of the color of their skin, for me, that's a definition of racism. But even if the school issue wasn't going on, I would still come here because there's a gentleman who's under Kyle Anderson, and it's Jimmy Dabrowski and Forrest Ballard. Now, Forrest Ballard has been threatening people. He threatened, just for looking at a live stream, he threatened the man's wife and children, left bad reviews on his businesses. Then, his name is Bill Kokinis, so it's on the record. And then there's a woman, Heather Golev, he was threatening her and her children. A Jewish woman contacted me. She told me she was being extorted to give them money or else what? Now, I want Woodbridge residents to call the FBI if you're being threatened. I'm not here against Black Lives Matter. I'm not here for any of these things, but there's something that's going on. It's not the same Black Lives Matter that was in Carteret, that it was inclusive, everybody against corruption. What I see going on here, it's a little bit more radical here. And I mean, come on, I'm sure you guys have seen it. Jimmy Dabrowski and Kyle Anderson have been fanning the flames for a long time. They're taking the George Floyd tragedy and they're exploiting it for their own personal gain. and that's disgusting. It's a disgrace. When I came here, I had some members from the Black Lives Matter movement confront me, and it really didn't need to happen because I support you, I support the police. If anything, I want to defund the fire department. Everyone wants to come here, they want to defund the police department. I want to be the one who wants to defund the fire department, so I'm just going to say it first. I said it first. Subscribe, Jersey Watcher YouTube channel. When's your next Woodbridge Council meeting? Because I'm coming to all of them. I can't wait to see Kyle Anderson. I have a lot to say to him. I'm just saving it because I feel I don't want to disrespect you members up here, because if I say what I want to say to him, you guys may misconstrue it that I'm attacking yous. And I respect yous. When I came here the last time, they wanted, they had another demand that you guys, what was that demand? To declare Woodbridge a sanctuary city? That's real stupid because Middlesex County, New Jersey is a sanctuary state. So the fact they come here with demands for you to declare Woodbridge a sanctuary when it's already a sanctuary, it's a sanctuary county, it just goes to show you they're exploiting everything they can. And like I said, the people that are going to hear me...
Thank you, your time is up.
Okay,
Thank
call
you.
the FBI and report Forrest Ballard.
Thank you, your time is up.
Okay,
Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Oh, ABA.
Anastasia Goldberg, Fords. I am here simply to say that my husband and I, he would be here if he was not at work, we both do support the police. We support the Blue Line. We wanted that to be known. I think that there is an issue with transparency for both groups that are outside. No one wants to listen to one another. We know that. That's been said already. But for me to stand outside, having said not a word on that line, to then be told I should burn in hell because I'm here. I should die because I'm here. That's where problems come from. No one knew if I wanted to come in and speak on behalf of police or against police. I'm not holding a sign. I'm not doing anything. Someone overheard me speaking with someone else who was for the police about where I work. They also heard me speaking to the other journalist outside about where I work. Because of that, I should be fired and I should die. This is the problem that we are seeing not just in our community, but across our country right now. And if people want to be heard, no matter what side they're on, they need to stand up with an actual platform, and they need to be able to listen to one another. We don't have the ability for a massive forum right now that people are calling for. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're lucky that we're allowed to have the people in here as others leave. And I'm appreciative that our town is allowing people to come in and having actual council meetings. So if people want to find a way to speak, they have that ability. They can do it online without attacking people and threatening them. They can do it in a park outside. We had a protest movement, we had a counter-protest movement. That's great. But my opinion is that the people who want something cannot make demands, and they need to make sure that they're hearing everyone's side. I personally have a reason that I support the Woodbridge Police Department. I have a 9-month-old. When he was a month and a half old, someone tried to break into our house. It was around Halloween. He was born in September. I'm a huge Halloween fan. I go crazy decorating. My husband helped me because I had the baby. We have all those skeleton dogs and bones, and like I said, I go crazy. This man with a knife was on my porch talking to himself, rocking back and forth, clearly intoxicated. I called my husband and I said, "Are you outside? Did you leave?" And I didn't realize that I was feeding the baby. "No." "Why are the dogs barking?" "I don't know. They bark all the time now. They're very overprotective." 20 minutes later, this man was still there. None of us saw him, but he was still trying to figure out how to get in my house. My husband asked him to leave and he would not, because he had to take care of us. He was convinced in his drunken state that we murdered animals and humans and left their corpses and bones across our yard. This man was clearly not in his right mind. But the Woodbridge Police Department was there in 3 minutes after we called, and they handled the situation. As a resident of Fords for almost my entire life of 32 years, there were 4 years I didn't live here. I lived in Greenbelt, Maryland, where my apartment was broken into while I was there. In Greenbelt, police won't come to the part of town that I lived in. because it's not a good area. And I was even told it happens and they target people who are white. That was by a police department. So having had that experience and the experience where with a month-and-a-half-year-old, Woodbridge Township was there almost immediately, I will support our police. If there needs to be transparency of the budget, then so be it. But you can't provide that because you haven't been given that yet. So the fact that this is continuing to go on and people are questioning and arguing with you about why you're not giving them the information that physically doesn't exist for you is part of the problem. Wait and understand why you're not getting the information. Listen to everyone's side of the story. And once you have that, it's made public. You're easily able to get it. Again, we support the police, we support the Blue Line, and we will, specifically because of the time that we were assisted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Can
Are
you,
there any other comments this evening, sir? We'll get you the cards. You're leaving? You're leaving now?
Yes. Oh, should I stand outside and come into the booth?
Good evening, but John Tariq Woodbridge.
Council President.
Well-
Subscribe, Jersey Washington.
Well, I was here last March, and I see things
Tara,
that
can you give me a second, please?
John, go ahead.
Hold on. And can you speak up?
Yeah.
Don't hold the mic, because that's going to distort the sound.
John Tariq Woodbridge. Well, I was here last March, and that thing started, I believe, and I thought it would get better, but again, it got worse. You see, so far tonight, I didn't hear anybody that had a background what I did. I saw those kids outside tonight, and they've been used by somebody. They're not leaders. They're just the gophers. They've been used by somebody. Who pays them off? People in charge of it, they're not here. But again, I was one of those kids 60 years ago in Europe. We were against the same kind of things. They know they used us. So most of us tried to leave, and we were experienced what we were doing, and they let us leave the country. That's why I'm here. But again, I support police department, because when I was in school, they told us how we gotta destroy capitalism. What you do, make it harder on police, and then police gonna need more police and more police and more. We need more police. We told mayor years ago back, you're building us apartments, you're gonna be no cops, no firemen. We know we need it, right? Because the only one that can protect us. Once they're not here to protect us, you want people like Eastern Europeans that would train to do those things, take it over and do the job? I don't think anybody wants that. And that's what they're leading to. You cannot defund the police. Sure, you discipline the bad guy, you educate the sick police. I'm sure the sheriff's department got different policy with how they do it with the law officers, what you call them. Do same with the police. Well, we need them, they're good people. I never had a bad experience with a cop in Woodbridge. Yeah, I got stopped by the cop, check if I was drinking. I got more stopped by state troopers. Do I call them against it, that I'm foreign, as soon as I open my mouth, they know I'm not American? No, they do their job. I grew up on Strawberry Hill since 1962, when Frank was there. We had no problem. My first experience, my stepfather was Hungarian. We came from Pennsylvania. He stopped us on the Turnpike Bridge, and there was a black man he stopped to, and was talking to him Hungarian. And I said to my stepfather, which I speak some Hungarian, I said, you nuts, this is a black man. Before I finished, the black man started talking to Hungarian to my stepfather. There was no problem. How he spoke Hungarian, he was fluent Hungarian. He was in Europe, in American Army, and he was the interpreter there. There was no racism. There's no racism. What's going on? Don't come from different town to Woodbridge and tell us what to do. We pay for those cops. We pay for everybody. Don't come from other towns and why don't you go to other cities and do something? Because you know why? They can't. You people in charge, you should never allow that. If you want to talk like humans, instead of yelling and screaming outside, and then we'll let you open your mouth, say your word, they just that the idea is to get us to give in. And if once we give in this thing, then we'll take the Lincoln down, take the Washington down, burn the flag, burn everything else. That's the start. People will not tolerate this. We have come here, we are in charge of this town. I don't care what happened in Washington or Trenton or New Brunswick. Because you give in, the more you give in. There's a justice for all lives matter. Everybody God's created matters. But don't tell us, because I don't see it, other towns are much worse than us. Nobody, who's there? Who's anybody Pawtucket listening today? Anybody Edison or Metuchen or Highland Park? Woodbridge. This over and over and over. You can't run your business. You in charge, police is in charge. They got a uniform on, they present, they got flag, they're United States, they're law, they are in charge of this place. I don't want anybody to come here and, come on. It's gotta stop. And I believe, wait until November 3rd and be ready. Because people will not tolerate this stuff. We all humans, we love each other. If I'm a bad white guy, yes, I'm a bad white guy. If there's any other color bad, it's bad. But what's right is right. Another thing, I talked to a German about it, a black man. He came from Queens. Why did you come to Woodbridge? Well, it's cheap. How come it's so expensive in Queens? Well, Chinese and Russians are moving in. As soon as he said Russians, I know what he was talking about. Those guys don't tolerate all this BS. They're nice people, and I don't blame them. They want to come to a nice neighborhood. But don't right away try to readjust and give in. Why is not more councilmen? Well, the council president said, you got to run for it. You don't get it. People know the Constitution. People don't know, oh, I'm supposed to get it. How come there's no operations?
Your time is up.
Already?
Yes, 5 minutes.
Don't give in. We need cops.
Thank
if they're
you.
gone, we got
Thank
a
you,
problem.
Mr.
Are there
Vitale.
any other comments from the public this evening?
Hi, Megan Brown, Colonia. I just want to say that I don't want to be here tonight. I think I wrote an email last week and I didn't get a response about why we are still holding in-person council meetings. I support the Woodbridge Youth group, and I would like to be able to give my perspective and my opinion without having to be around people that I don't know. I think it's irresponsible that we're still holding in-person council meetings. You're not even all here. We're the 6th most populous municipality in Woodbridge, and there's only one other in the top 20 that is holding in-person council meetings. Newark, Jersey City, Patterson, Elizabeth, Edison, Lakewood, Toms River, Hamilton, Trenton, Clifton, Camden, Brick, Cherry Hill, Passaic, Middleton, Old Bridge, and Gloucester Township and Orange are all holding virtual council meetings. Just Woodbridge and Union City of the top 20 are holding holding in-person council meetings. I think it's irresponsible, and I would like to know why I didn't get a response and why we're still doing this.
From the very beginning the coronavirus started, we have always held in-council meetings. We follow all CDC guidelines as far as social distancing. And we made a decision to have our council chambers be open for any resident that wanted to come and express themselves.
Okay, I would like, I mean, I don't know why we can't do a call-in or a Zoom like the Board of Education or like all these other municipalities.
Other municipalities have had Zooms and call-ins, and it has been a lot of cursing and a lot of disrespect. And personally, I think that we did the best that we could for all of our residents in Woodbridge Township. Our council chambers have never been closed. And the people that are not here today, 2 are on vacation and 1 has medical reasons for not being here.
Have they been at every,
Though I have been here for every council meeting.
I know that you have.
Last council meeting, it was open to any council member that wanted to come back that felt comfortable. Why? Because we took measurements to make sure that we are social distancing and we're taking the precautions according to the CDC guidelines. We're following procedure to make sure that everybody's safe, just like we did here. Everybody's required to wear a mask. Everybody's social distancing 6 feet apart. What's required whenever you go anywhere, whether you go to ShopRite or you come here, we're following the same guidelines.
Right, but at ShopRite, you're moving around and you're not sitting next to the same people for, you guys have been here in session for over 2 hours.
We have been, but people have been rotating the seats.
Right, and I just, there have been council meetings in Arizona where people have gotten, and the cases are going up in New Jersey. We're no longer going down, we're holding steady. So hopefully nothing happens. And we had to give our information for contact tracing. So I just think that it doesn't make sense to do this right now. And I just wanted to say that because no one responded to my email. And I would also like to echo that I support defunding the police. And I mean, the man that spoke earlier about having to wait for an ambulance, I mean, that's not the police, it's an ambulance waiting for a heart attack. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense that he would be against that. He should be for more funding for the ambulance. So, I don't know, that's my 2 cents. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening? The young lady.
Hello. My name is Sarah Leary. I'm from Edison Township. I grew up there. I work in Metuchen, right down the road. I'm in Woodbridge often. I came here today to also support the Woodbridge Youth Group and support defunding the police. So you're all elected officials, right? So do you all genuinely care, like, about your community? No disrespect, but a lot of politicians don't. So you genuinely care, like, about the people in your community, right? Okay, well, I hope so. So my next question is, do you realize that crime isn't random? And there's been studies done of places across the US and different countries where they actually took some of the resources they were putting into the police department and put it into, like, public health services, housing services, stuff like that, mental health services, and they saw crime decrease exponentially. So, I don't know, I guess that's my argument in support of defunding the police, one of my arguments, and I just want to make sure, like, you are all aware of that fact. I don't know the studies off the top of my head, but if you'd like to Google them, they'll come up, and I hope that people who were elected, who are supposed to actually care about their constituents, do keep in mind what is best for the community, even if it goes against what you might think is true. And I guess my next point is, I just want to say, like, I'm here as an ally to the Black and Hispanic community, and I want y'all to know that I've been around a lot of people, and there is support for defunding the police across, like, all different races, all different social and working classes at this moment. Like, more than ever, people are seeing, like, that this really is a good idea. So I just want you to know that you do have a lot of constituents here in Woodbridge, a lot more that came today, that really do support defunding the police and see why it is a good idea and why it is the best for the community. And they are looking at you all to make sure that you're going to do the right thing. And yeah, that's it. Oh, and also about what the lady before me mentioned about the Zoom meetings. I tuned into the Edison, like, Board of Ed's Zoom meeting, and everything went fine, and it was pretty good. So if y'all want to try that, just saying, good idea as well. But yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening? Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Victoria Birch. I spoke last. You remember me? Yeah. You wrote a lot of notes. Once again, I came here in support of Black Lives Matter movement. Once again, I didn't write anything because I was hoping I would just be able to witness what went on here. But again, I feel compelled to speak. I feel compelled to speak based off of what I heard outside. A lot of people out there, a lot of emotions. I think you're right about needing to be able to listen to each other. There were a few people shouting some very awful things like, your lives don't matter, you're animals, you know, at the people that I'm trying to support, which obviously, I'm gonna throw up again. Anyway, that whole awful mentality is right outside, right outside. But a few of them were able to stop screaming at our faces and actually have a discussion. And when I said, "What do you think about the people who are shouting these things in our faces?" And they were like, "Oh, they don't speak for us. I don't think about that. I'm just here in support of Blue Lives." When we don't back certain movements, the figureheads of those movements of oppository movements end up speaking for us. So when we're not able to rally around and say that we support Black Lives Matter, and we instead fully support the police with no critical eye, you can support something and still be critical of it. I can support the American government and still be critical of it. I can support you and still be critical of it. I think just blatantly supporting the police without thinking about what that truly means for each and every person in your community can be dangerous. So I think that defunding the police is necessary. That way we can reallocate that amount of resources. The Woodbridge Youth Group, Woodbridge Youth, sorry. They're asking for a 15% reduction as opposed with the 11 points that they brought up. Sorry, it's really hot out there. With the 11 points that they brought up, one of them was being able to take away 15% of the budget and reallocate it. So we burden the police with so much of the daily responsibilities of everything that goes wrong in our lives: mental health, housing, medicine, every area. And I don't think it's fair to put all of that on to cops. I don't support cops. I'm sorry. I don't want to make it seem like I'm like gung-ho over the police. I think that a redistribution of those resources could really help. And I was talking to people that support cops out there, and I said, I think that these other systems should be built up and beefed up and supported in our community, and then we can reduce police activity in our communities. Cops are needed for the multitude of jobs that we give them, as opposed to what they should be, which is fighting against crime, right? Protect and serve. And talking out there calmly with people, we were able to see each other's points. I was able to write down all of those things that he was talking about and talk to him face to face. I think that setup like this isn't really the best, because outside we can't hear anything. I was only able to hear parts of it because the Woodbridge Youth Group was broadcasting it live on Instagram. Something we could do. I know you said about the cameras and it being available on YouTube. Also the Zoom call, if you want to hire moderators who can moderate chats, they're there to make sure that certain words aren't used, if you're trying to block curses and all that stuff. We're able to hear from the wider majority of the people that you represent in different ways. Just hearing some of the things that were said outside is really concerning, and I think we need to really listen to what people are saying and what we truly mean when we say all of these things. I'm getting a bit lost, but yeah, I just see so much of it.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I'll be there.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening?
Hi, my name is Hadi Manahil, and I'm a resident from Avenel. I'm part of Woodbridge Youth Liberation Equity. And I'm going to be quick. I just have a few things I want to say. I want to assert some of the things that many people probably have said before. And the list of demands that were sent out, some people have an issue with the way that it was presented. But it's just a request, same way that anyone else has come up here and asked like some things that we want done in the town, as I've lived here my whole life, my whole 20 years. And you know, since I live here, I feel as though I should have representation, as you said. Like, if someone wants to be councilman leader or whatever they want to do, you have the options to be elected and say what you want to say. So my main thing is the budget is going to come out sometime, I think, in the next couple of weeks, correct? And when it does come out, we requested, I'm nicely asking, we just want to reduce the police budget for many reasons that were presented before, so that we can redistribute those funds so that we can have better schooling. Like the police budget, the police are great so far, right? So the schools aren't as great as they can be. I want to reinstitute that money into the schools. Have better opportunities for our youth so that we can go to better colleges. We can have better success of just anything that's youth. We want our town to succeed, so we should put that money towards places that our town will succeed. As far as whenever our group has tried reaching out and emailing you guys, we haven't really gotten the response back we need, and I think, as many people have said before, we need that transparency. We need to communicate with one another. And I feel like most of the times we are just left like with no response. And I think we should, I would like for you guys to work with our groups so that we can work together to, you know, get some of those demands done. And I think one of my main questions is, why is it that I received an email back from John McCormack's secretary, and she said that we are working on the list of demands. But you guys should work on the demands with us because we are asking so that we can create, you know, you guys communicate with people who are asking for it. So my main question is just, why haven't at least the mayor's office reached back out to us in regards to the list of demands and how it is being worked on?
I think you'd have to call the mayor's office and ask them that question. You know, I keep stressing the fact that we are listening and we are hearing, and just because we're not giving you the answers that you want doesn't mean that we don't have a conscience or that we don't care. We are actively working in trying, and I just want to say this, that there's not one person that sits on this dais that doesn't have the best interests of all of our residents in Woodbridge Township in mind. But what I find a little disturbing is the fact that there have been instances where people have, yes, we got a chain email, most of us did. That was what was put out. And on this dais, some people have responded to the emails, they've had conversations with people, and those people that they've had conversations with have denied having such a conversation. So is that really dialogue, and is that really honest? If we are supposed to be working together, then let's do so in an honest and in an honest way where we can have differences of opinion. But that doesn't mean that we're not working towards the best for the residents in our township. I don't think there's one person on this dais or in this room that condones anything that happened out there as far as people threatening people or calling name. But I gotta be honest with you, and hey, people might tweet about me tomorrow, or I might be on social media, but the fact is that there are instigators on both sides, and not in a positive way, and that's not constructive. That makes people shut down and not wanna enter into dialogue. There is nothing wrong. We live in the United States of America, and we have a First Amendment that gives us the freedom to express ourselves as we wish. I am proud of the fact that our youth in Woodbridge Township have the courage to do what they're doing. Does that mean that I agree with everything that you're doing? No. But it gives me hope for a better future because you're actively working. And I'm sorry that I took your time.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Hi, my name's Bob Norcia. I live in Fords, and this is the second time I've been here in a matter of months. It's about a quality of life issue. I contacted the mayor twice by email. I spoke to Sergeant Chesery. I spoke to the 3 code enforcers. I got a neighbor that used to work on cars in the street, in the driveway. They kept warning him. That stopped. Now he's got to be connected to a used car lot because every week, every 2 weeks, there's a new car with temporary plates. He brings it in, he works on it, in a week or 2 it's gone. This has been going on. He even paints cars in his garage. It's getting to the point where if he doesn't leave, I'm leaving because it's been going on almost 2 years. Code enforcers have been there. They go to talk to him. He tells them, oh, no, this is my car. I'm working on it. Baloney. Every week there's a different car, and there's all temporary plates. He's got a car he had that he just converted again. He had Texas temporary plates on it. So it's getting out of hand, and I'm really way up here. I'm a grouchy old guy, and I can't take stuff anymore. And I wish somebody would get down to it, check him out, and either give him a summons or take him to court or whatever they got to do to get rid of it.
If you could you, through the chair, if I can get his address?
Yeah.
I think we've had somebody out there before. We've answered your emails.
Many times.
Yeah.
Mark, all the 3 code enforcers and Sergeant Chesery.
Okay. If I could, either after the session or now, we'll get his address.
What's the street, sir?
Evergreen Avenue.
Thank you.
Should I go see him?
No, we'll take it from here, correct, Mr. Similuka?
Yes, absolutely.
We have your name and Evergreen Avenue, so we'll
Right.
reach out.
I live at 12. My neighbor's at 16.
12, 16.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing there is nobody else present at this time, can I get a motion to close the public comment portion of this meeting?
Motion. Second.
A motion made and properly second. Any comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam President?
Before I move into our agenda portions of our meeting, I would just like to say that Mayor John McCormick made a statement today regarding the role and the responsibility of the Woodbridge Township Police Department and the Woodbridge Township community. And again, you can see that on Facebook or on YouTube. This is, I guess, this is what government is. You listen to what anybody else, what our constituents have to say, and we listen and we take into considerations, and sometimes we may answer, sometimes we may not. Sometimes we may answer the way that they wish, and sometimes we may not. That does not mean that we are not working for our community. That does not mean that we don't have a conscience. That does not mean that we are on one side or another. It just means that we took an oath to represent every single resident in Woodbridge Township. That is our oath, and that is what we're supposed to do. We represent all of our constituents in Woodbridge Township, whether we agree with their views or whether we don't agree. But we are actively, and I am proud to say that my councilmates, myself, the administration, we actively work proactively to make sure that we do the best for everyone in Woodbridge Township. That's all that I can say. We continue to work and to try to do our best. Again, we're all humans and we're imperfect. We don't live in a utopia, but we try our best. And, everybody says, oh, well, you all took a stand in saying that we support our police department. We do. As a woman, as a Latina, I've had positive interactions with our police department. I try to meet every police officer that I see and introduce myself. It's part of forming relationships, of having relationships. And I'm sure that if anybody goes to one of our police officers and says, hello, I'm so-and-so, how are you? They'll respond in a positive manner. Again, we're not saying that we're perfect, but we are saying that we are listening and we are hearing you, and we are proactively working to continue to make sure that Woodbridge Township is fair and continues to move in a positive and safe the way that it's been. That's all that I can say. I'm going to move on to my agenda. And I'm very happy to announce that the Hispanic Heritage Festival will be September 19th, 2020, from 12 to 5 at Tansman Park this year. Again, this was something that I took the initiative of doing 5 years ago when I came on council, because I think it's important for us to interact with other cultures and learn from other cultures. Moving down to the library news, the Woodbridge libraries are now open. We have new summer hours. They're following CDC guidelines for in-person visits and their summer reading programs for all ages. The theme is Imagine Your Story, and are available at thewoodbridgelibrary.org or by calling 732-634-4450, extension 7100. Free upcoming library programs that will be offered with Zoom are Storytelling 101 with professional storyteller Judy England McCarthy on Wednesday, July 29th at 7 p.m. and Intro to New Jersey Genealogy on Wednesday, August 5th at 7 p.m. with Regina Fitzpatrick from the New Jersey State Library. You can register through the library homepage by calling 732-634-4450, option 5, or again visiting www.woodbridgelibrary.org. The library continues to partner with Jewish Vocational Service to offer a virtual class to prepare for the citizenship examination. Participate from home with a smartphone, tablet, or laptop in a 10-week class that begins August 1st and covers the N400, American History and Civics. A green card is required. Call 862-704-2291 for more information. The library also offers virtual ESL classes at this time. Please call Literacy New Jersey at 732-906-5456 for information or to register for future ESL opportunities at the libraries. That is all that I have. Council Vice President Small.
Thank you, Madam President. Number 12 on my agenda, National Lands Day is going to be held September 26th. Mark that on your calendar. It's a great day. It's a great community day. Also, the Jazz Festival is going to be held on September 12th. This is an ongoing program. It's been very successful over the past few years. Number 16, the concerts on Sunday. There's a change of time. It's now 7 p.m. Concerts are at 7 p.m. on Sundays. Again, all concerts are at Woodbridge High School. Sunday through Thursday they're running. They've been very successful so far. Just a couple announcements. I haven't mentioned it in a while, but I want to thank Director Green and his staff at the Health Department. COVID has slowed, but it's certainly not over, and we have to remember that. Do the right things, because the last thing we want is numbers spiking up in Woodbridge. I want to thank all our township employees for all the great jobs they do, all our essential employees. Thank you, officers, for tonight. I know it wasn't an easy task, but it seemed like everybody behaved and cooperated and you had everything under control. And thank you to all our police officers, all our EMS and fire departments in Woodbridge Township for the great job you do. And God bless America. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Stiller.
Thank you, Council President De Jesus. Mr. Mitchell, comment on my agenda. Can you please remove number 11, the Greens at Avenel, and replace it with number 11, the My Lead Way Army Corps of Engineering project? I'll touch on that on the next council meeting. The rest of my agenda is in order. Just one announcement. The Avenel Knights of Columbus asked me to announce they'll be having a blood drive this Sunday, July 26th from 9 to 3 at the council home located at 109 Morrissey Avenue. Appointments are preferred, and you can call Genevieve at 732-672-5281 to schedule. Please continue to pray for all the residents that have fallen ill or passed away. Continue to pray for our police, fire, EMS, emergency management, and all our first responders, as well as our residents and township employees that have to continue to go to work as essential employees. Be safe, be smart. God bless America. That's it, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Drum.
Thank you, Council President. My agenda number 2, Downtown Merchants Association. They have completed the 3rd business owner interview this past Thursday with the owners of Wanna Smoothie, Bill and Michaela Claremont, located at 76 Main Street. If you'd like to hear it and get to know them and their passion for their business, you can locate the interview on the Woodbridge Downtown Facebook page and soon will hopefully be featured on the Woodbridge Township app, Woodbridge Now. They truly walk the talk and are true to the word, shop small and buy local. I'd like to thank them and the other business owners in our downtown Woodbridge for their loyalty, strength to keep going, and their endurance during these challenging COVID times. The next interview is scheduled for next Thursday, July 30th, with Jennifer, the owner of Pole to Pole Fitness, located at 80 Main Street. Registration for this Zoom live interview is necessary through Eventbrite by simply clicking on it at the Downtown Merchants Association Facebook page called Woodbridge Downtown. Number 3, Main Street SID, the Special Improvement District. The SID had their meeting last week and approved the plantings along the downtown. And a big thank you goes out to all that did it. It was 100 degrees the other day, and we had the landscaper out there and our DPW, and I appreciate all their hard work. It looks really beautiful. We're in the process of vetting a muralist to get some nice paintings in the downtown area, and we are all looking forward to the marketing firm Social Sidekick to begin promoting our downtown businesses as well. This is all in preparation for the downtown business enhancements that will be coming in the near future. Number 4, the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber had a successful outside networking event this past Wednesday and welcomed Ice Cream Emergency to the Chamber and to our community. Thank you to our Mayor McCormick and Chief of Staff and our TV 35 and Director Haggerty for presenting them with a ribbon cutting and best wishes for success. For everyone that came out in the heat to support this event and get a glimpse of normalcy as the way it used to be, thank you. The next outside chamber networking event will take place on Wednesday, August 19th at Curtin's Restaurant at the Avenel Performing Arts Center from 4 to 6. Register to attend on our chamber website and enjoy a fun end-of-the-day venue with your business associates. This event is being sponsored by Northfield Bank. And I have an announcement. The Woodbridge Knights of Columbus has signed an agreement with us to rent space for freezers and refrigerators to the We Feed Woodbridge Food Pantry so they could accept more food donations. This rent and utilities are being paid for by Community Development Block Grant funds. This is a wonderful collaboration, all in an effort to feed our community in need. Thank you. And as we all continue to work and manage during this pandemic and these uncertain times, we all know many that have been negatively affected and struggling because of it. I would encourage everyone to intentionally be kind to each other. Let's continue to keep our families, friends, and our community at large, our businesses, our leaders, our schools, sport leagues, and everyone else by showing support and mutual respect for each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Council President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to thank you for directing that Edison resident to another meeting, but I would probably recommend that he go to the New Brunswick Board of Education meeting. And as a point of clarity, I just want to add that county office does not have the authority to close a school. They are a part of the process, but the decision is made by the Board of Education for the City of New Brunswick. So thank you very much for that. I was pleased to see that, or to hear that Mrs. Osborne, former Councilwoman Osborne, that I actually sit in her seat, was there tonight, and that she's been appointed to the Human Rights Commission. Former Councilwoman Osborne and I actually had a 2-hour conversation, and it was the first time in a long time that we've spoken since I've replaced her. And it was very refreshing, and I'm just pleased that she is in a role right now where she can make a difference. She was my former psychology teacher in high school, and she offers a lot to our community, and I think she'll do a great job, as well as some of the other members of the Human Rights Commission. If it has not been assigned to anyone else, I would be delighted to have that added to my agenda. And I do want to just mention, I'm sorry I can't be there tonight. Unfortunately, I am undergoing a medical situation, but otherwise I would be there. And that's really about leadership. It's about being there and bringing sides together. I don't know if many of you know this, and I'd like to share some of an email that I wrote. I'm rode with the Woodbridge Police Department last week, and I just want to read a few lines of it. But one was, I'm saddened that many of our police officers feel hurt and unsupported at times during the state of affairs in our country. National attention to police brutality issues have impacted the 18,000 police departments in the United States, and many have called for defunding of the police departments. Even in Woodbridge Township, student-led protests have listed defunding the police departments as one of their demands. I'd like you and your colleagues to understand that while I feel it's important that every resident is heard and respected and that their First Amendment rights are never denied, I'm not in agreement with or call for the defunding of our police department. This does not mean that I will ignore their concerns. Instead, I will listen to them more intently because it is my job as an elected official to give every resident of the township an opportunity to be heard, and I will attempt to understand. We, the administration, council, mayor, and department, are missing an opportunity to have an open and healthy dialogue with residents that have viable concerns that are statistically supported. We must make an effort to ease the tension in our community through effective and willing communication. I'm determined to bring to light to the fact that demographically, our police department needs to change how they seek out candidates if they ever wish to reflect the community in which they serve. The significant underrepresentation of African Americans, especially African American women and Asian Americans, in the Woodbridge Police Department is unacceptable. In 50 years, there have been fewer than 10 African American police officers, never more than 5 in the department at the same time. I'm willing to work with the police department leaders to find a way to improve on this. Lastly, I've learned that there's. I won't actually read my closing, but I will say that it was a very positive night. I actually saw a number of things that night. I was in a narcotic stop, a domestic, a traffic stop, an accident. There were so many different things that I felt that our police officers do encounter. One was an excellent demonstration of de-escalating a situation. And during that time, I saw a friend of mine, Detective Rich Yannick. Rich Yannick came over, and he was always a friend of mine. And one of the things that I noticed, he came over and we shook hands, and other police officers saw that because many know that I've had a strained relationship with the police department. Rich Yannick, he is very meaningful to me because our daughters not only cheered together, but we've celebrated our kids on different occasions. But he came to my home one day and rang my doorbell and told me that my home was almost broken into. And I didn't know that. I had no idea. There was apparently a drug addict in our neighborhood, and he tried to break in through our sliding door. And Rich brought me around the back and showed me where he had broken the molding, and he was trying to pry the door open. What was more alarming was during that time, it was a time when my daughters were home by themselves because they were old enough to walk home from school, and they were doing their homework. Had he gotten into our home, my daughters could have been hurt, or even worse. So I do appreciate our police officers. However, I do want to say that there are things that we need to have dialogue about in our community. And one is in particular is the blue line down the middle of Main Street. And I want to know and I want to ask our police officers and our town to consider sharing that space. Okay, I know that we use it for St. Patrick's Day and we use it for Relay for Life, but there are other causes out there. And I understand that Police Appreciation Month is in May. And if it's on that line for May, because this line right now seems to be dividing, we have 2 rivaling petitions in our community. And I would like to see the police department, if they see and recognize what this is doing to our community, that there are people that are coming to our meetings and that they're asking for things, and in particular, that line, why isn't it that we can't share it? I'm not saying to remove it. I'm saying to give it to the police department so we can celebrate them all month long for the month of May, and that we can celebrate other causes. I for one, would be more celebratory of something that is on the line. For example, on Inman Avenue, we still have the pink line. So it's a faded pink line. For the month of October, we celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'd like to see that where we celebrate more than one thing in that area. For whatever reason, we like to paint lines down the middle of our main street to show that we're recognizing something. And all I'm asking, I'm not saying removing, and I'm not saying that we don't support. I'm telling the police department that they know they have supporters out there. We support them, and I've said to them countless times, and it's been reported, that I support them. But I want them to know that, perhaps they can recognize that this symbol right now is really, really tearing our community apart. And they are supportive. And I don't think they need to line all year long to show that we support them. And I think that the people that are opposing them right now would also support them if they actually saw that this is something that is tearing our community apart, and that they would be willing to say, hey, let's share the line. Okay? And that's all I have today. I do want to say I thank everyone on this council. I thank every one of the people that have come to our meeting tonight on both sides. And I've said this before, I'm willing to sit down and talk with anyone. And it was a huge step for me to ride with the police that night, and I was so appreciative that I did it. And we do have good men and women out there in our police department, and I support them wholeheartedly. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to ask for some changes at times, but I'm not asking to defund the police department. I am asking for them to make some changes in how they recruit and to make sure that we're represented and that we represent our community. Thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you. Regarding the Human Rights Commission, it has been decided that the Human Rights Commission will be on the council president's agenda. So every year as we switch, whoever is council president that year will have the Human Rights Commission on their agenda. Thank you. Councilman Ficarra.
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick statement. I think I said enough, but I tried to bring up issues that have been looked into with the administration on mental health, homelessness, the domestic violence team, our substance abuse counselor coaching program, and the housing initiatives that we had. And I'd like to put forth that we can not defund the police and still address these critical issues that seem to be brought up. So I'd be very willing to discuss that further. I did throw in my 2 cents, and I stand by it about reinitiating the DARE program, because I think kids can grow up to have police as role models, and we might be missing that by not using that program. Thank you for that time, and I'm sorry for some of my interruptions today, but I felt compelled to speak. In regards to health and wellness, our community center physically is temporarily closed, but there are outdoor group programs going on, outdoor body combat, Zumba, yoga at various times. Very complimentary fee, $5 per member, $8 for not members, and of course it is weather sensitive. Our beautiful Skyline mini golf and batting cages are open in the back, weather permitting. For those of you that take advantage of the batting cages, you need to bring your own helmet and bat. That's kind of a COVID regulation. Our Highland Grove Pool and Spray Park and Forge is now open and still accepting memberships. And our summer camp at the community center continues to go on, and membership is open. For all of these programs, you can check out at 732-596-4170 for the general number, or go online to our very robust website at njwcc.com, New Jersey Woodbridge Community Center.com. Just a quick thank you. Last Wednesday, we ran our annual pizza run. We had over 150 runners, probably, according to the people we work with, the first of its kind in New Jersey during COVID times. And it wasn't done lightly. A special thanks to the Recreation Department under the leadership of Brian Molnar and assisted by Eileen Caggiano, Brianna Ludlow, Jared DeLumba. Norma Grasso was a tremendous help. She was just a volunteer. She came with her son. She assisted me with guiding the racers as they're going through the course. The race director, Rob from Runners High, even though he's from Metuchen, we have adopted him here in Woodbridge. Tracy at Bobby's Grill and Tavern did an outstanding job of running the awards program and all the activities afterwards. The Woodbridge Police Department, under the leadership there of Patrick Kenny, did an outstanding job of keeping everyone safe and moving along. Our CERT team did an amazing job. The Port Reading First Aid and the CompuScore people we worked with, Stacy, we were able to stagger the start. So everybody didn't start in a gang race. Co-ed regulations would not allow that. So we ran 2 people in 20-second intervals. If you're a runner or into fitness, that is nothing less than spectacular. So congratulations to everyone to pull that off in a safe manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitch.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple comments. Under number 1, I'll go to letter B. That's fairly new to your agenda. That's a transfer of a liquor license to Talk Resto Bar on Marconi Avenue. Letter C is a corporate structure that has just been added for Bellagio Wines and Liquor. The applicant is looking to add a new partner. The police department will vet that applicant and will have a recommendation within the next month or so. Tonight you started renewing liquor licenses for the 2021 cycle. You renewed about 40 of them. There's about 54 more left to do. It's not on the municipality, it's on the licensees, whether it's fees or tax clearance. So we'll continue to treat them as they come in over the next several months. The only other item I want to add or make a comment on is Census 2020. We have received our numbers so far, still where we stand. Woodbridge has done fairly well in its response rate, but we're still short from where we probably should be with some other municipalities. So again, to the public, it's important that they respond to the census. Everything has been extended several months due to COVID-19, so we continue to ask the public, if you have not responded, to please do so. And most importantly, for the fact that year after year, billions of dollars are given out by the United States government to the states, and that money comes trickled down to the counties and the municipalities. And unless that we're really up there and we're competitive with our response rate, it's going to affect us. And some of the programs that people speak about in a meeting like tonight are important that our numbers are significantly improved upon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Business Administrator Smaluka.
Thank you, Council President. I have several items on my agenda tonight along with myself and the other directors. On my agenda, I have an update of the purchasing manual. For police, I have a traffic ordinance amendment. For planning and development, I have a refund from the current account. And from Public Works, I have an intersection improvement in New Brunswick Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. I have the digital tax map support mapping assistance, and I have the release of a performance bond for 1400 Randolph Avenue. Also on an additional add-on, I have the final change order for the club interior rehab. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Legal.
We have nothing.
Thank you.
We get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.